This will be a regular meeting of the Town of Hennessey Board of Trustees, March 9th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Richard?
Here.
Cliff?
Here.
Bert?
Here.
Harold?
Here.
David?
Here.
Next item on the agenda has Troy Watkins' name on it. Over there. Troy, would you come up, please? This is from the Oklahoma Municipal League. It's an honor roll of service. The name of Mr. Troy Watkins, in recognition of more than a quarter century of service to the town of Hennessey. So, we appreciate your service to the town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You didn't know what you were getting something for, did you?
No,
Okay,
I gotta get home.
okay, I understand.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks
again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 2 is report from the Hennessey United Board. I guess that's item 3. Barb, you have anything?
No, I think
It
we're
was a
meeting.
pretty sparse meeting. Yeah.
Besides that, Harold told me not to talk so much.
Um,
at the meetings.
Did you tell Harold when he was absent a while back that we got out in like 15 minutes?
Yes, that's why he told me.
Okay. Item 4, consider approval of consent agenda. Item 8, minutes of the January meetings. Approval of claims as follows. February purchase orders, $4,751.63. March purchase orders, $22,832.91. March restricted sales tax fund, $28,219.22. March library fund, $118.26. March street and alley fund, $6,774.17. And accept the following reports. Treasurer, library, police. Approve budget amendments. Looks like we've got
Yeah, it's a front to back.
a couple of budget amendments. Estimated revenue on the electric franchise tax is showing an increase of $7,500. Other revenue $6,500, and we would reappropriate that to personal services in the parks of $6,500, general government, other services and charges of $7,500, and then on the other side, general government capital outlay, an increase of $15,400, library capital outlay of $400. Anybody got questions or comments on that? Okay, item E is report from Crawford and Associates. I'd like to introduce Mr. Frank Crawford. Crawford and Associates has been the town's accounting firm since the early 80s, I think, and
84.
have always done an amazing job for the community. With having lost Tiffany due to her resignation, there's a lot of accounting stuff that we're going to have Crawford's take care of and go over until we get a replacement, and then may need to continue. So Frank, I'll turn it over to you and
Sure.
let you.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't really have a whole lot to say. Just wanted to make sure that you guys know that we've kind of stepped in, in the absence of Tiffany, just to kind of keep our eye on stuff. a little closer than we do, although we keep our eye on your stuff anyway. As the mayor said, we go back a long way with the town. It was one of our first of our 3 clients when we started up our firm in 1984. That's how far back we go, so we have a little bit of a proprietary interest in Hennessey. It kind of feels like our own hometown. I don't know if you know this, but I'll just make this statement. Hennessey is probably one of the more well-run small communities in Oklahoma from a finance standpoint than a lot of the cities that we've got. I mean, we have over 100+ cities that we do work for. Partly because you guys have been paying attention and you've let us guide you through a lot of stuff. And you've been remarkably, turnover free in a lot of places, at least from the finance side. Now, it sounds like we have a little turnover, so again, we'll step in and play the role that we need to play. One of the things that you see from us is a quarterly report, in addition to the annual audited financials, but the quarterly report that comes out about September and then December, and that's gonna be due probably in May, your next one. I know you probably saw the December one. But basically, everything seems to be running online with the budget. So if we had projected, $3.8 million of revenue and $3.8 million of expense after February the 28th, and we're 8 months through the year, we're right around the right percentages that we need to be. The revenue's coming in pretty much on time, and the expenses are kind of flowing out at the same rate. So there's really nothing exciting to talk about. You're about almost a $4 million entity, $4 million in annual revenue and expense. It's about $3.8 million at the end of last fiscal year, where we bring in about $3.8 million and we spend about $3.8 million. And of course, give or take 100,000 here and there, we might collect 100,000 more one year and spend 100,000 more the next year. So that's a pretty big sized entity. I mean, especially for a town this size. At the end of June 30 of 22, you ended with about $5 million of cash and investments. I mean, that's a huge pocket of money. The one thing about that $5 million in cash that I want to make sure everybody understands is about $1.5 million of it is unobligated or unassigned to anything. In other words, we could decide to use it for whatever we wanted to if we wanted to use it. The other $3.5 million is actually restricted money that you have either the voters have dedicated a penny sales tax to only buy capital with, or you borrowed some money to build a capital item so you can only spend it on capital. So about 3.5 of that $5 million in cash is pretty much restricted, can only be used for certain things. But we help you with your budget every year. We help with these amendments that you see as the year goes by, and we keep our eye pretty close on kind of what's going on. So you're audited once a year. The financial statements are audited once a year by another CPA firm, who then come and issue an opinion about whether or not everything looks okay. As far back as I can remember, the opinions are what we call clean opinions, meaning that the auditors are not finding anything of what we call material misstatements or anything like that. So kind of back to the idea that this is kind of a well-run city. But I think it's because we've got a lot of eyes that watch this, not only ours and the auditors, but I mean, there's a lot of interested people. The board and the citizens stay into it too also. So probably what we'll do now, in the absence of Tiffany, or until you consider some kind of replacement for Tiffany, we'll kind of step in. Of course, we're not coming to City Hall and staying there all day long, which would drive everybody
You
batty.
can.
No, believe me, you do not want us here all day
Have a
long.
chair.
We would absolutely drive you nuts. But we're seeing all of the activity. We're seeing it by every month, so we're reconciling it every month. So we're kind of picking up where Tiffany was there, and we'll do so until that we don't need to do it anymore. But I just kind of wanted to give everybody a little brief background of what's going on. And the next quarterly report will probably be your meeting in April, where we'll be able to look at 9 months of data. But just based on the 8 months that I've seen already, I don't really see anything kind of going crazy. Everything seems to be kind of right on line. The amendments that you're doing, sometimes, when we adopt the budget back in May or June of the year before it even starts, we have to guess at all these numbers, and then you know, when the electric franchise comes in at $7,000 more than what we thought, there's $7,000 of revenue that we hadn't planned for, so we amend the budget, and then you're allowed to then appropriate that money to something else that you want to do with, so. So that's why you're kind of seeing amendments, and that's why the budget is amended, is we can't really predict the future, and we can only kind of respond to what's actually happening as the year goes by. But we got about 4 months of this year left, but it looks like it's going to be a good year. Your last year was a good year also, so I mean, everything's accounted for, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and you seem to be in really good shape financially, and you've been that way for a long time, and again, I think that's part of the role that we've all played in that. So with that, I'll let you ask any questions, and I'll stop talking.
Anybody got any questions for Frank?
I just want to say thanks for coming and helping us with this time of without that, so I just want to say thank you for your.
Well, I appreciate that, that's no problem, but like I said, we have always looked at Hennessey like our hometown, even though we're not from Hennessey, but it's just been one of our first clients, and we kind of baby it, I think, is the best way to explain it. But it started with my older brother, who I'm sure many of you remember, Mike Crawford, and then when Mike retired, you know, a number of years ago, I guess I got thrown into the mix, so. But we've gone from just Mike and I, you know, 2 people that started this in 1984, to 31 people, and now we have a practice that has hundreds of clients, both within Oklahoma and outside of Oklahoma, and several international governments that we do this for. So.
And you don't do any accounting other than governmental, municipal?
Correct. We kind of niched, back in '84, we decided that we wanted to niche the government arena. So we can't even do our own taxes, which is kind of weird because, you know, everybody asks me tax questions all the time, and I usually have to say, well, I don't do taxes. And they say, well, what kind of accountant are you if you don't do taxes? So now I just answer their question, and the conversation's over much shorter. Like, hey, can I deduct this? Yeah, deduct it. I don't know whether they can or not. But, I mean, the conversation's over, and I don't have to explain myself. So, but yeah, I mean, that's our job. So we appreciate we have any help that you guys need while you need it. So,
Okay. I'd just like to give the board just a little bit of background because I know James was on the board then, but Tammy Hunt, who has been with your firm, how long?
35 years.
35 years.
And we've only been in existence 39 years.
So she used to come to Hennessey every board meeting day and help reconcile bank accounts and all of that sort of thing that once we hired Tiffany, she took that over. But Tammy was at every board meeting, so we may need to go back to that for a while.
That's fine.
And just to make sure that everything stays on track. But
Well, we will play whatever role that you guys want us to play, and again, you know, we keep a pretty tight eye on this place, so
right.
so anyway,
Okay.
but we'll play whatever role you need.
Okay, thank you. All right, citizens' comments.
Hey, we haven't approved the music for that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda as approved.
Second. Roll call.
Cliff,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay, now carry on.
Now citizens' comments. Anybody got anything you wanna bring up?
I have a report
Okay.
of our library thing last night.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't know what we're called, the library committee that was formed by the board, met last night, and we've pretty much concluded the appointed committee assignment and have now created a historical society committee, if you would, that will now start moving forward and looking into what it will take to create a historical society. with their primary mission of being a fundraiser for the library building. And the people that raised their hand to be on that board was, hold on, I gotta get my notes. Kevin Hopkins said that he would lead us, Barb, Frank Patton, Scotty Hike, and me. So that could change as we move forward and actually get official with it. One quick thing, they asked if the gutters on the back of the library building have failed and it's filling up the basement and causing mold and things like that. And they asked if a bid could be made or something to try to get that fixed.
I wasn't aware of that until today, and I've asked David to pursue that, and I don't know why that's not something we can just very simply take care of.
Okay. And then the final thing that will probably require an attorney is that they all agreed that we probably need to figure out if the Historical Society does move forward and start raising a lot of money, that the city council won't just come up and say, we don't want it, we're gonna tear it down. So I don't know how that would work. We did discuss possibly trying to get it into a historical building that then we just can't tear it down. But I don't know what to do with that. I'm just giving it to you for advice.
Okay. Well, we can make Frank earn his money for coming up here. Am I correct in that one board can't obligate another? I mean, what this is our library building, and the Historical Society is going to raise money to renovate. And it's my understanding they don't want to raise all this money if the town says we're going to level the building.
Sure. Well, I mean, I assume the Historical Society is set up as a nonprofit organization, like a 501c3.
Not yet.
It will be.
It will be, yeah, I mean,
It's 24 hours old, yes.
yeah, got it.
Happened last night about this time.
Gotcha. So, yeah, so as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, people will be allowed to donate money and take a charitable contribution for it on their tax return. However, before you go through all the trouble to raise this money, for a particular project, you might want to coordinate with the city that there is a project to be done, because again, it would do no good to raise all this money to renovate something that they're gonna tear down. So, the city can always turn down a donation. I mean, if they raise a bunch of money and you guys decide, well, we're not gonna accept it because we can't fulfill the purpose that the group is gonna give it.
Can the town make an agreement, though, that they will not tear the building down and it's guaranteed? I mean, we could vote on that at any time.
Sure.
But with that, if future boards have time.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, so I hate to give legal advice.
Sure.
And so, for what it's worth, I don't think there would be any prohibition to signing a memorandum of understanding or an agreement that basically says, here's what we're gonna do, here's our intent, and then both parties just communicate, through this process, and then if the intent changes on one of the parties, that you get that discussed and out in the open. But yeah, I don't see any prohibition from that type of arrangement. So, but once the money starts flowing in, then that triggers what we would have to do. I mean, we'd probably set up a separate fund. We'd probably want to track it individually. We'd probably want to see all the revenues coming in, all the money going out, not jumbled in with the other monies, but kind of separated. But that, again, that's pretty easy. City, I always compare city finances to an ugly pair of pants. One that has 19 pockets. Each pocket is its own thing. So you have two main pockets, like the general fund and the utilities authority, but then you got a bunch of little zippered pockets where you've socked money away for different things that they're restricted for, and we just have to open up another pocket, basically, in that ugly pair of pants, and then run that money through there. It would be budgeted every year, just like every other fund, and if it's gonna take 2 or 3 years to do it, then you'd have 2 or 3 years of budgeting. But
I don't
again,
understand that. We would have to be a part of the town
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
what? Okay.
No, the library is owned by the town. So
Yes.
the building belongs to the town. You're the Historical Preservation Society, a separate 501c3. You're raising money on behalf of restoring the library or whatever purpose. You would never be part of the town. You're your own separate legal entity.
Right, we're not gonna run the money
No.
through the town, yeah.
I don't know where you're gonna run the money through. I mean, if you guys would be responsible for building the renovations, then
Yes,
it would be
that's-
your revenue
yes.
and your expense, not the town's. The other way to do it would be to give the town the money, let the town run it through their books, but that doesn't have to happen that way.
Yeah, I don't think that was.
That's not our plan.
Yeah, and there are a number of legal ways to do this, but, I mean, both accounting, well, there's just two different accounting approaches. If it runs through the town, I'll see a lot of it. If it doesn't, what's gonna happen is the town's gonna get all these renovations done, and it didn't cost them a dime. And you're gonna present these renovations to the town council and say, here you go, your building's now worth $75,000 more than what it was before.
We hope more than that.
Something like that. It's just using random numbers here.
I know.
But that, yeah, that's, again, that would work also, as long as you're your own legal entity. And that's the key. You can't just be a bunch of people that have decided to raise money, because the IRS is gonna frown on that unless you're a separate legal entity and set up for the purpose of that.
Barbara, I would kind of throw the Snyder account into that category, where a gift was made, and the town is tracking it and keeping it, and spending the funds out of it.
If I recall, the Snyder Fund, we hold the corpus intact,
That is.
and then we use the interest that's generated by that for a special purpose, so that we always have the amount that they had given us, in the principal or the corpus. So that, again, that's another methodology that also works, but again, you all can figure out how you wanna do it, and that's probably whatever's the easiest for everybody is the best.
Frank, did you have something?
I think he addressed one of the questions, but I thought after our meeting that we were more gonna be a separate entity, because we may not deal with just this library.
Correct.
So we would be doing privately owned old buildings too, so we would be a separate
Correct, yeah.
corporation, yeah.
You would be completely legally separate from the city, and you wouldn't even be what we call a component unit, not even a related entity to the city or the town. You're just your own thing, and you have your own reporting requirements and your own IRS Form 990 rules that you would have to follow. But again, you're just like I'm not prohibited from donating money to the town, you all would not be prohibited from donating money. Or if I just wanted to build something for the town and then give it to them, I can do that too. I could lay roads, I could build a building, I could do whatever I wanted to and donate that to the town. And that's basically what sounds like you guys are gonna do, only it's already to a town structure, you're just going to improve it, so.
Okay.
I would like to add that those monies could also be given to a foundation. It doesn't necessarily have to go, the funds don't necessarily have to be deposited with the city.
Yeah, again, if you raise the money and you want a different foundation to do the repairs or the renovations and have that foundation be the one that's responsible, yeah, there's nothing that prohibits you from involving another 501c3 or another nonprofit organization. So, I mean, the end of the day, you want to get done what you want to get done. And so whatever's the best and easiest for all parties involved would probably be the simplest way to do it, so. But you got a number of different ways you can do it.
And then Kevin was going to make arrangements to have somebody come speak with us at our next meeting that has done this. So they can guide us a little bit on how to do it and what to look for.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, item 6, town administrator's report, Dave.
We've got some new hires. One, Dylan Atherton, replacing Pat Laverca in the Park Street Cemetery Department. And then we've got summertime help. Colton Shaw will be in, from April 3rd to July 28th for, the heaviest part of the season. They've added animal control to Tony Hickey's current duties, where he's Also going to be code enforcement, and he's a reserve officer as well, already with the police department. We've got Ronnie Decker from dispatch is in town hall helping out with the account payable and taking money for receipt for water bills and stuff like that, taking up a lot of the slack. We've also began the hiring process for the lifeguards. It's still a little chilly out, but we got to get that going. We got next month I start filling the pool. So, and then of course we've accepted Tiffany's resignation as of February 24th. But we've had the reason why we got Ronnie in there is because we've had a really stretched thin with our current employees, with Denise and Shelley in there, and I don't know heads or tails of what they do, and it's a pretty hectic job description. So we've been having to have Tiffany on the phone almost constantly. She's been in several times. Katie has been in hours and hours, and I don't know how to present this. I don't know what's correct, but some sort of compensation was mentioned the special meeting, and I think that needs to be looked into, because they've been spending time here when they could be with their families, and they really care about the town and want to make sure everything's done right. And then of course I was graciously asked to fill in until you guys could find either another good, experienced temporary or hire somebody. As far as purchasing, we're still kind of treading water where we were. The REAP project, we received the letter from the DEQ. I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Approving the construction of the water line on Dunlap. The CDBG grant for the drainage project, the work is really going good. They got a slow start, but they had some problems with the approaches on the roads of 5th, 4th, and 3rd to South Mitchell, and they got with their engineer and got everything figured out, and they're pouring the concrete and getting everything going there. It looks really good so far. The water plant, of course, you guys know the RO's up and running. We've had a few issues with the punch list and stuff, but they've gotten almost everything done. The last letter we sent in was 95% complete, so that's pretty good that our city engineer drew up. And then the building permits, we've had a couple little things going on, a couple electrical and gas permit, but the 2 mobile home permits that were denied originally, the Board of Adjustments met last night, and with all things considered, they went ahead and approved that and got that going. The rest of the stuff down there is all pretty much the same as it was last month. Any questions, or did I do it wrong or right?
No, you didn't do it wrong. You didn't do it wrong. I see on the report, the RV sewer dump ordinance the attorney's working on, in the food truck ordinance, and he's been working on these for a long time. I found out he's out of town this week, or indisposed or something. I would like to get those 2 pushed to the front burner and get something done on those.
Same way with the sewer dump, we've been working on it.
Yeah, that's what I said, the RV sewer dump and the food truck ordinance both. So we can visit with him next week. Okay, any questions for David? All right, other scheduled business, discuss, approve, deny, reject, and/or take action on the following. Item A is discussion and action to approve payment to Craft, I'm always afraid I'm gonna say that wrong, Craft Rentals Construction Company, payment number 1 for $176,912.80 using CDBG funds and Hennessey funds for CDBG grant number 18523-21. Jennifer,
Hi.
you're on.
We're here. So this is our first invoice for the work that's being done on the drainage improvement project, our CDBG project, for construction. So there is some local dollars that have to be spent in that area, so we've tagged that onto this invoice now. So we've kind of just split it between the federal grant money and your money to get it paid, and they've been doing a good job, so. And I've interviewed them, they're on site, they're happy workers.
Good. It looks like they're progressing very well over
Yeah.
there. I hope it works.
I do too.
We've always had a drainage issue.
I make a motion to approve the payment of Craft Reynolds Construction Company for the first payment for $1,706, $176,912.80 using the CDBG funds and Hennessey funds for the CDBG grant of hashtag number 18523-12. Excuse me, I apologize.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Cliff,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay, item B is discuss and take action to approve payment of Callan Group invoice number 7149 using REAP grant funds for REAP grant number KF 23-2.
I can speak to that one, because you have the grant through NODA, so,
Exactly.
it's your water line on Dunlap.
Done that.
So it's, just probably one of the first few invoices for that project that need to get paid, and, with David being new, I said, hey, what do I do with this invoice? I said, hey, it's REAP, it's perfect. So we just have to, have this approved so we can activate the funds from that grant to come to you guys to pay the invoice.
Okay. You got it?
Make a motion to approve the payment of Cohen Group invoice number 7149 using the REAP grant funds for the REAP grant number KF 23-2.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Harold,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item C is discussion with possible action to approve permit to construct for REAP grant number KF 23-2.
That is just a standard practice when you get a permit to construct to accept it in your minutes. And it's the permit to construct for that water line project on Dunlap.
Okay?
You got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the permit to construct under REAP grant number KF 23-2.
And I'll second that.
Roll call?
Bert,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, item D is discussion with possible action on presentation from Steve Whitlock with Oklahoma Municipal Management Services. Steve?
Evening, Mayor. First of all, you have a great finance company right here. I've known these people for a long time, and they're great to work with. So, give you a little bit of background. Town of Hennessey is a member of our organization. We've been in business a little over 4.5 years. If it's municipal related, we do it. Part of what we've been asked to do is we've developed an organization based upon needs of what cities and towns need. Part of that was executive recruitment. It wasn't something that we initially had on our menu of services, but it was something that we've been asked to do for that as well. The mayor reached out to me and wanted me to just come give a presentation tonight, tell you a little bit about what we do and see what we can do to help you. We currently have approximately 135 member cities in Oklahoma that cover every population and every form of government that you can really think of. So we feel that we understand, municipal government in Oklahoma. I've probably been in it probably a little over 30 years as well. And from a standpoint of municipal management, it's not really the same management. And cities, when I started, it's a lot more complex. It's a lot more difficult, and I will tell you the staffing levels have not gotten any better. Right now, from a job market perspective, right now municipal recruitment is pretty slow. It's hard to recruit people into municipal government right now because we're competing with the private sector. We compete with a lot of the other avenues to where it's not as politically more of a political environment type situation. But to get back to the recruitment process, part of what we do is we do executive search. We can do anything from help you set up a job classification, job posting. We manage 4 organizations. 2 of those have jobs boards that would be applicable to this. One would be the Oklahoma Municipal Management Services Organization, which is OMMS, which we would post on our jobs board there. And then we also manage the City Manager Association of Oklahoma, which would have a jobs board there that we could do. We could set up that process. We could go through, help you set that up and allow you to start recruitment. The other avenue of that is that we have a full-blown executive search program. Based upon that, we would develop a community profile. We would survey your staff. We would advertise, collect all the resumes and applications. We would rank those. We would do background checks, and then we'd submit that to you for action. We would help you do the interview process to the extent that you need us to. We develop questionnaires. That has a fee. The other one does not. So basically, we're here to just see what we can do to help you. And the mayor reached out, like I said, and you guys are members, so we want to do what we can to see what we can do to assist you.
What's the fee?
Fee for the first one is basically it's nothing. The other one is unfortunately is that the job, and I don't want to say it's not expensive because it is. It's approximately $12,000. It takes about 3 to 4 months to get through, depending on timing, as well, because of the advertisement process. That can be shortened, obviously, as well. But we have based that fee on is looking at national search firms and keeping our cost really in line with their reimbursables as well. It is a pretty fairly detailed process. We would also set you up with a communication portal that would allow you to see how that process works as we go through. Once the application deadline would be over, you would be able to access that. You would have all the information on the applicants. You would have all the information on the process. We rank them based upon a schedule, but our rankings are not what we classify interview process for. That's just things that would mean, do they meet the minimum qualifications that the town board has established? Do they have expertise in certain municipal government, things along those lines? And then we would, turn that over to you and assist you with that process as well. I'd like to say I don't want to say it's not expensive. It is. And the same role, unfortunately, is that whether it's a smaller city or a larger city, it's still the same work product as well. But
have you looked at our town administrator and what we require on our ordinance?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Have you looked at what we call a town administrator in our books, our ordinances?
Well, it's not unique in that aspect. I mean, I think each town has there's what the job description says, and then there's what the work actually entails. And I think after sitting through this, it's what you say in Hennessey is not unique to what we see. There are always employees that wear multiple hats. It's just the way it works out. I don't think it would be unique to Hennessey on what you're struggling with. Struggle in the aspect of, I don't want to sound like a broken record and a Debbie Downer, but employment right now for municipal government, retaining and also recruitment is a little tough right now. It just is. You know.
And you're, correct me if I'm wrong, working with Kingfisher on their city manager
We are.
position?
Yes, Mayor. And same situation. They reached out to us. We met with their council, and we are actually I think their process, application process closes at the end of March. So we've probably been in it about 2 or 3 weeks roughly. We try to run it about 45 days. It is a national search. It is not only related to just Oklahoma, but we do get the information out to the International City Managers Association as well, which has a much wider reach. But we do focus on local recruitment as well, or Oklahoma recruitment as well.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question. Kingfisher is such a larger town compared to Hennessey, but you don't have to answer this question, but how many people have applied for the Kingfisher position?
Well, one of the things, and that's a great question, one of the things in that process is it's confidential. And because we come to you with a hiring process, and the process that we would come to is that in this line of work, the job process, applying for a job, if I'm in a situation where I'm a town administrator in another city and I apply for a job here and that information is out, it obviously could jeopardize, you know, the position of where I'm at, good, bad, or indifferent. The program that we propose, and it's a public process, is that you would approve a hiring procedure, and that procedure would entail that we handle the resumes. The resumes would come directly to us. We log those resumes. It's not that you wouldn't see them. It's just the process is that it all comes together in one package and then it's presented to you. Once that process is done, then we would schedule interviews. And then at that point, if the applicants desired that their candidacy be public, then that can happen. We've seen too many times though in the past though that when those resumes go public, the candidates will leave. And we manage 2 law enforcement organizations as well. And I tell people, I said, you know, we don't hire police officers like that, or firefighters, or public works staff, in that it's on the front page of the newspaper. That doesn't mean people don't need to know, because they do. But the process to get to that point is what we deem as an administrative process. And it's clearly established in that resolution. But not to skirt your question, but we have an agreement with Kingfisher that we won't release that information until we're done, and we would have the same agreement if you guys so selected as well. But the numbers will come out in the end.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think we're 3 weeks behind.
Do what?
So I think we're about 3 weeks behind. We should be doing this already.
Well, I understand that, but we were gonna have a special meeting and Mr. Whitlock wasn't able to attend. And
He did. The mayor did reach out to me on the conflict.
And like I said before, Harold, I would rather take our time on this than make a bad hire. And I'm going to go back to what Frank Crawford said earlier. We're in charge of a $4 million entity here. And I really think finding a good, professional town administrator is of utmost importance. This isn't a community that 5 board of trustees can go out and micromanage and run on a daily basis. It's just not. And there's so many legal aspects. We all know that. We know it's a complicated process. I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, you almost gotta be on the town board at least 2 years to just figure out what's going on. And those of you out there that have said here, I think would probably agree with me. But anyway, I feel like that the OMMS, I feel like we need to utilize their services in one way or another. I would be all in favor of hiring them as a headhunter, so to speak. That's probably not a
That's the term.
politically correct term.
That's the term people use.
And, but to help us develop a good job description and find out what kind of candidates we've got out there.
And that's part of the process that comes with the agreement too, is the development of not only a community profile and an advertisement document, but also a job description that is approved by the town board. Most towns have them already in place. Some of them probably haven't been tweaked in a long time as well. But one of the things that we would also address in that agreement too is from an advertisement standpoint, we do pass along the advertisement cost as part of that process if it's international as well. But it's not something that I don't know the local community like you do, but you want to hire the right person. I've seen too many communities that hire the wrong person, and sometimes not filling a position is better than filling a position with that wrong individual. And that's not being critical, it's just this is a multi-million-dollar a year public operation. And if I want to take my wallet and throw it out in the street, that's okay, that's up to me. But when it comes to tax dollars and obligations and things along those lines, you really need somebody that knows what they're doing. That's not to sell us. We'll help you out any way we can. You don't have to have an agreement for a full-blown if you don't want to. You know, we have people on staff that if there's questions about operations, we do that as well. We want to be a resource. So just, you know, we're here to help.
You've answered, I had several questions and you just answered 2 or 3.
Sure.
I have one more question, I may have missed it. When this position is advertised, the salary has to be advertised. What assistance do you provide and what would be the appropriate salary?
You know, that's a great question, and it always comes up. We see some advertisements that just have a blanket statement that says depending on qualifications. We have some that will set a range, and there's pluses and minuses to that. When you set a range, you're never going to get people to look at the low number. They just, and that's just human nature. If you say $5 and $100, the $5 is hard for somebody to look at. But it also gives an expectation of what the applicant should expect. Hennessey's not going to pay $2.7 million for a salary. People in the profession or have that understanding know what, kind of what the field's going to do. But I think it does help, Richard, to have a little bit of gap in there to give people a little bit of an expectation. And we can help set that in the process, because when we develop the advertisement document, if we're selected, that information will be included in there, and we would come back to you and we would talk to you about how that threshold would feel.
Do you have a database of small towns and what they're paying?
We do. Yes, sir, we do.
Do you have a pay schedule where you say a base salary and then maybe a bonus based on performance?
And I think that's really what we think the market should go to is that, I mean, if you were to hire me to come in as your town administrator today, you don't know me, and you don't know the abilities and expertise that I have. We would like councils and to tie it into, to set up some sort of strategic plan or understanding of economic development. And you say that what would you like in your town? And then you identify that. Pick three businesses or three, services or three goals that you want that administrator to make. And then evaluate that as it comes forward, and then adjust the pay accordingly. Because I think we should earn our money. I think we should do that, and it's not unique to that. And it allows the council to set, or the town board to set the direction of where the administrator should go. Because our goal is that most of the time, or all the time from policy, we shouldn't care what your decision is. We should just, if we're asked to provide input from staff, we should do that. But our goal is to carry out the direction of the majority of the board. And as such, if you set a vision for those people, for those staff, then that's where that vision comes out. And obviously, if we meet those expectations or benchmarks, then compensation, I think, is appropriate. I don't know that, I'm not a firm believer in believing that people should get paid because they're in an organization longer than they should, or tenure. They should get paid because they're improving that organization as they go forward.
To clarify for myself so I completely understand.
Sure.
Shouldn't the job description and the pay scale, shouldn't that be done up front before any advertising?
It would be done up front. It would be within the agreement there, and I should have brought an agreement with me. There's usually three, there's three exhibits that are attached to the contract. One is a job description. If that exists, we place it in there because we want the applicants to know this is what the expectations are. Exhibit 2 is generally a job advertisement that will have a little bit squeezed down version of that, but it'll have the key components in it that you approve. Part of that would be a salary, if you so wish to have that dollar figure included in there, which you, as this town board, would approve. And then the third item is the hiring process itself, that specifically shows the steps that the town board will go through to treat the applicant process fair, consistent, and then everybody knows what the process is, both the applicant and the town board as well.
And would you meet with us in the very beginning and to find out kind of what we're looking for and to establish those parameters? I mean, is that, to get the ball rolling, is that where we would initially start?
And Mary, and that's the reason it's kind of it's really kind of a flat rate aspect and I can't remember, I think we plan on, I'm hoping it is 5 or 6 visits within the contract that are included in the price. And part of that is developing that procedure. We can do that face-to-face. We can do it individually by Zoom. We can meet with the council on the trustees as a group and identify those key characteristics and performance indicators that should be included in that. So it's not an aspect of just saying, okay, we'd like the contract with OMMS and tomorrow we're going to send you an agreement. We can do that, but it doesn't satisfy and accomplish the goals that we think that you want, which is to spend some time to develop. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Tiffany was here a long time, and what her job description may have been back then and what it is now is probably not even close. So we need to kind of have a reconciliation of that process and to bring everybody on the same page as well, because again, you can hear from your staff, and it's not unique to Hennessey. I don't want to sound like it's just not. We go to hundreds of council meetings with that, and we tell people there's 100 Hennesseys in Oklahoma. There is.
Trust me, since February 24th, I've heard from the staff.
More than once.
But we work for you guys. I mean, I know it sounds, maybe I'm talking out of both sides of the mouth because you're going to, if you contract with us, you're paid for that. But we want you to be successful. We do. And your organization is a member of an organization of 135 member cities. That's who owns us. We're not owned by board of directors. We're owned by cities and towns. So we're on your team. So whatever we need to do to make you successful, we're more than happy to do that. Our main office is in Tulsa, but we have a great relationship with OMAG, insurance company that covers almost every city in Oklahoma. We have a landing spot and an office available space there. So I was in Moore yesterday for a meeting. I was in Edmond yesterday afternoon for a meeting. And so we're more than happy. This is, we want you to be successful. And then that, if I can leave you with that, however we decide to get to that success is the town board's design.
I think it sounds great.
I make a motion to hire OMMS.
I have a comment, please.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I want to remind you that in several meetings back, I brought up a public works director, and I have not put it on the agenda. I should have put it on the agenda for tonight, and the reason for that is right now our public works director's duties are joined are on the town administrator's duties and responsibilities. And I don't think that's the way to go. I would like to try to convince you guys that we need a public works director and take those duties away from the town administrator. And what I'm talking about will greatly affect what you guys are talking about, how you're going to put out a job announcement. We got to write a position description. You see where I'm going with that?
Exactly.
So
And
what that is I didn't mean to talk over you, but it's like an onion. It's got several different layers, and as we peel those back, we're going to uncover more and more stuff that a public works director needs to do and needs to be qualified on. And if we hire one person to replace our past town administrator, he or she may not have any of those skills whatsoever. And then we're still going to be in a jam. So,
Hold on. Is that what you said? You would work with us for a town administrator position? That what we want for a town administrator, that he would work with us to set the guidelines with the town administrator. We can take away some of the stuff that we want for a public service director.
Right, and I think that's what.
But
yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I must not have done a very good job of it.
No, I think you did fine, David, but, and I agree with you. I said that it may take 5 people to replace Tiffany.
Well,
And when I said that, because I'm thinking accounting, what's going out around the community on a daily basis, what's going on with the aspects of employment and staff. There's just so many aspects there. And I agree with you that a town administrator, I want to see somebody who is able to go to the Capitol, who's able to help pursue grants and is good at that. And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think if we hire OMMS and we come together as a board with them to write that description, that we don't write in the field work, so to speak.
Right.
Am I kind on track with what you're saying?
It's the perfect time to hash all that out and separate it. And that way OMMS can help us fill the position that they advise us to and we accept or approve. And then we can go off and the odds, in my mind, the odds of finding somebody that has accounting experience and knows how to do a laser line on a sewer pipe, that's a rare individual.
Exactly.
Very, very difficult. And I doubt very seriously if you can find anybody like that. That's why I'm bringing this up again, and I apologize to the board for not having this on the agenda. I'll have it on next month.
Well, David, I think about this too as well, that just because we're developing, again, I don't want to be premature and think you're giving us a contract. That's not what my statement means. But if the aspect is to laser focus on that job description for the administrator, we need to laser focus on the public works director position as well. Not from a contract perspective, but to make sure that there's separate duties.
Right.
That we could identify 2 job descriptions, hire one, and then lay the groundwork for whatever future, because you don't want them to overlap if you don't want them to overlap. And now's the time to make it.
Me
make it
personally, I would try to avoid any overlap to where they would have to work together on budget, of course.
I mean, let me be clear, overlap in the same duties in that respect.
Okay, I got
Our
you.
deal is,
Yeah.
we got it written down in statute, or whatever you wanna call it, what a town administrator should be. You know, now we're gonna work on this deal, what do we do about this statute that's written down? Do we say
We change it.
that we need to change before we go ahead?
No, because what we would do is that with the agreement that we would send you, on the exhibits that we talked about, the 3 exhibits, the first 2 are gonna be blank at the approval of the contract. And under it's gonna say exhibit 1 to be determined. Because you're just gonna engage the OMMS at that point, and then we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna assign exhibit numbers to that, and we can either do it by resolution, as a policy from council, or we can just update the agreement to plug those 2 definitions back into that as well. Because maybe I'm not being clear in the aspect of is that the contract is just authorizing us to get together, and then we come back with a document that we agree with as well.
Just to fill you in, maybe you already know this, but I'll say it. What happened to us when the oil patch went to heck in a handbasket? We laid off the head librarian and we laid off the public works director. We were, I think, running something like a, was it $200,000 deficit for the year. And the short run solution was to give the public work responsibility to the town administrator. That was a short run solution, but that is not a long run solution. And I think that's...
It's not unique in this job market right now. We see it pretty significantly in law enforcement right now. It's again, I'm not here to be the bearer of bad news. We just look at what's out there in the job market right now. It's tough to get municipal employees when you're competing when the economy's good. I can count the number of probably not a large number that I've sat through meetings that we don't get the report that Frank does. Having a fund balance with cash is a great thing. Usually we hear people that say, well, we want to hire somebody, but really don't have the money to pay them. And for you to have that flexibility and to not have to look at the checking account every time you approve a claim is a massive success for you guys. And I mean that. It is. We focus on having a reserve policy in the cities that we work for just to have that stability, but it's not unique. But I think what you may find out is you're going to find out as we go through this process of how much multiple hats your staff does wear, and that's not going to change the process. It's just going to make us realize that if you can get a town administrator that's got public works experience, I think that's great. It's a very limited pool, though, applicant pool to make that happen. Not saying there's not people out there that can do it. It's just a very smaller
I think
pool.
even if they could do public works responsibilities, there's enough work on the administrator side, including
No doubt.
pursuing grants. We would want them to focus on what they do best.
Right.
And as David said, bring in a public works director
Right.
position.
And if they're out in the field, they're not in the office, and that's not a negative statement. It's hard to do both things.
You can't do both
It's
things.
hard to do both things.
Very good. David, I appreciate your comments and what you said. If we do this with them, I would like to see if you'd be willing to hold that public works director until they can help us separate and make 2 job descriptions so that we're not just hiring somebody that's without knowing exactly
Yeah, I
what
got
we're
it.
looking for in
I
qualifications.
think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I feel like we would need to make sure they can laser the sewer pipe, to make sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they understand the water plant, all of those types of things that go on out and around our
Yeah, so-
community.
So if we're gonna work with OMMS, then I do not need to put it on the agenda for next month.
I would say not until we were able to get a description with you. And maybe I'm asking you to do two things for one price, which if you'll do it.
Remember the multiple hat thing we were talking about?
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's how we do it in Hennessey. You know,
That's
if
how we
we,
have money in the bank.
that's right.
You should have put me ahead of Frank. In all seriousness, here's what again, we're gonna support the town, whatever your decision is. If you would like us to send an agreement, I'm gonna be in the office, I've been on the road for the last 2 days, but I'll be in the office tomorrow. I can send an agreement tomorrow or the first of the week, that you can take a look at, that you wouldn't have to wait a month for. If
Well,
you
we
want,
can always call a special
you
meeting
could.
as well.
I hate to say we're getting into a little bit of conference time because, like I said, we manage 4 other organizations. I want to be at the meeting. I don't have to be there for that too, as well. If you're wanting to work to start that process sooner, but I would recommend you send it to your attorney, let your attorney look at it as well. And I could get that to you no later than the first of the week, which would move your process more forward. I don't want to sound like we want to rush, but we do want to be cognizant of the steps that we take, because you want to get the right person. If it takes a little bit of time to get the right person, it's kind of like paving a street out in front of a business. People get frustrated when it's torn up, but once it's repaired, they're excited about that and the things that happen as a result of that. I would rather us take a little bit of time. I can guarantee you that you got some competent staff here. I don't say that because I'm sitting on this side. I say it because they're open and honest and telling you what that they deal with, and that's what you want to hear. You want to hear, the items.
Just one way we gotta be, in a certain way, we gotta be, move a little forward, a little faster. Because come April, we gotta vote. We might have three new council members here, or town trustee members, or 2 more, So, however, whatever we do.
And you got budget, and budget's coming up.
Yeah, so it's not like it's the thing that, we got 2 agenda items on already that our town attorney's been working on for almost a year. Can he read this stuff, and get to it?
Well, I'm going to tell you the agreement that I'm going to send you is this. We probably, don't hold me to this, maybe 15 searches. It's basically the same agreement. We have an attorney on staff as well that has, I don't ever want to say approve an agreement that your legal people have not looked at, but it's pretty consistent with what we've done. Like I said, Harold, I can get you the agreement the first of the week, and then.
The only good thing about it is the other 2 guys running are out here in the audience, so they are listening to this subject, so.
And the same issue came up in Kingfisher, because Kingfisher, they have term limits on their council, and they have 2 new council members that, I'm not going to say that discussion wasn't coming up, but whether you have a change in council or not, here's one thing that you have in common. You have to fill a town administrator position at some point in time, whether that's with us or somebody else. That still process has to occur. We're here to help. We're the government.
Just out of curiosity, are you based in Tulsa or Oklahoma City?
We have our main office is in Tulsa.
I mean, what I'm saying is, if we want to call you, it's a 2-hour drive over from Tulsa to Hennessey, and I'm concerned that we call you and you spend all this time on the road.
I'm not going to say it doesn't, but we have a passion for this, and it's not lip service. Really, the only thing that would stop me from coming out here is a conflict in schedule. We would have been here sooner than that, but when we manage 3 other organizations plus this one. You know, we were at the Capitol last week. We deal with the law enforcement issues. We deal with city management profession. We do building inspections. We staff other departments and cities. But I'm the one that needs to travel because you need to talk to the person who's in the organization. Long story short, we're gonna do everything we can to be here, even if it's for a 5-minute meeting. When we did an executive search for Watonga, and that's even a further drive. But you know what? We know our goal is we want you to be successful. You know.
I make a motion to hire OMMS to help with the hiring of town administrator of $12,000.
Wait, there's, the fee is $12,000, there's a reimbursable for the advertising, but if it's just a contract, whether you look at the contract first, it's gonna be $12,000, maybe $12,800.
So just leave,
I don't wanna second, we'll get you the agreement and then to.
so just leave it as hiring?
I would maybe make a motion to pursue,
Contract agreement.
a contract with OMMS.
Cliff, I'm not trying to be persistent, but we just want,
He's
want
still
you-
scared I'm gonna put 2 hats on him.
no, we really want
I got
you,
it stuttering now.
I don't want you to trust me, I want you to see the agreement, you know.
Correct.
We want you to feel comfortable with that.
I think maybe pursue.
We would completely support that, and then what that will do is that authorize me to develop that agreement, and Mayor, I will email it to you no later than the first of the week, and then, if you,
Kind of like a contract agreement with attorney approval.
there'll be a signature block on it and everything ready to go, and whatever, I'll leave the dates blank on it, so if you wanna schedule a special meeting.
Special meeting.
You bet.
Say
Correct.
14 or 14, 15,000 over the next
Correct.
call a special meeting.
Well, they said that, let's just do it for, you know,
What I'm
get the
asking,
agreement. He said he'd do it at 12 to 13,000.
you know, we've approved these things like this where we'll pursue this
With an upper
up to
limit.
this amount.
Mhm.
And I'd like to put an amount in what Cliff is writing for the motion, where we wouldn't have to have a special meeting.
The problem is with the advertising and stuff like that, you would not, you know,
Yeah, we
the Oklahoma
wouldn't
City
know.
paper is a little more, you know, the Enid paper is a little different.
Well, and we know what that fee is, it's a direct pass-through, you will get I believe it's $450, because here's the ones we recommend. Doesn't mean you have to take them, but that's where the agreement comes in. The International City Managers Association, ICMA is $450. Texas Municipal League is $150. Here's the benefit you get with that. We do so much work with them, I just got a coupon for a freebie. Next person that gets the contract gets the freebie, so welcome to Hennessey.
Can you email that when you get home?
And then CMAO and OMMS are free. So that's the only difference. It's gonna be 12 plus the direct pass-through on that, and that's the only difference. So really, you're probably looking at just ICMA because the Texas Municipal League's gonna come off the table now. So, I just would feel more comfortable if you see the contract. I trust you guys, but I want you to be comfortable with it as well.
Sure. And we do need to let our city attorney.
You do.
look at it.
But like I said, Mayor, I can get that to you the first of the week at the latest.
Richard, are you leaving town again?
Yeah, I'm leaving on the 14th and I'll probably be gone close up to a month.
The 14th.
I'll make it back to the next town council meeting.
Next Tuesday.
What do you think your schedule?
That's Tuesday you're leaving?
Yeah,
We couldn't have a special meeting by Monday night, could we? What do you think? What do you? Because,
7:15.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You can if you, I mean, you can do it, you can call it for 7:15.
Yeah.
I would get the notice, at least the notice of agenda, special meeting, and then I'll do
What are
this,
your
I'll
thoughts,
post
guys?
haste it, I'll send the agreement first thing in the morning.
How about the night before you leave at 7:15?
if that wouldn't work a hardship on others.
It doesn't mean.
I'm good with it, Bert.
Okay.
Let me check my schedule. Not that it's gonna impact me, I'd like to be here, but I don't want to.
Okay, I just thought of another kink. I don't know if our attorney's gonna be able to approve it that quickly.
You can approve the agreement at that meeting,
Pending
subject
his
to the
approval.
city attorney's
Okay.
approval.
I'm totally confused now.
And
I don't think we have to do anything tonight.
And the motion,
Make a motion to approve the agreement on MS.
Well, not the agreement now. Make a motion to pursue
Yeah.
a contract with OMMS in search of a town administrator.
I will send it to you first thing in the morning.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not Friday yet. is
No,
it?
it's
Thursday.
Okay.
My days are running, I can't guarantee that I'll make that meeting, but we will still start the process as well on the contract, so.
Contract with
will get that.
OMMS in search of a town administrator.
And when you get it written out, I'll second it.
Motion to pursue contract with OMS regarding the town administrator position.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Harold,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
By the way, Tiffany is still our deputy town clerk. I don't know where our town clerk went.
She went to go post the meeting.
Oh, well, that's probably a good idea. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Whitlock, for being here. I appreciate that.
Glad to be here.
I feel confident in the direction we're headed.
And I'll make sure to bring 2 hats next time.
Yeah. Okay, item E is discussion with possible action on replacing the storm siren system and or temporarily upgrading the existing system. Okay, you guys, and this is something that we've been working on for a long time.
Speaking of 2.5-hour drive.
See you later, thank you.
Yeah, have a good night. I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You bet.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Good to see you.
We'll have no deer.
I've got bad news and bad news. The first bad news is that we tested the storm siren system Tuesday, I think it was. Not one siren in this town worked.
Holy cow.
All of them were down. Now, the problem is they are all activated by phone lines, and 99% of the time when we've got failures, it's due to the phone line. There's a storm siren down on Oakwood Drive. I drove out there to listen to see if that one went off. I looked over and the wire is draped across the back fence. I walked over there and looked at it. Looks like a squirrel ate it because it's completely in two. Anyway, in your packet, you have got a proposal, and this is on state contract, so would not require competitive bidding, from Chickasaw Communications. Don't faint when you get to the third page. That was the second bad news. This is replacing, we have 4 sirens. I started to say that work. We have 4 that should work. The one on the water tower has been out of commission. The motors burn up in it and there's no parts available. I will go into what this will entail if you want me to. I did it when we did so if you remember what we'd be getting, if you want me to go over that, I'd be happy to. This would work. These sirens will be radio activated from radios in police cars, fire trucks, computer, whatever the town wanted to set up. So they also have battery backup, so normally in a severe weather event, one of the first two things that gets taken out is power and telephone lines, and this will eliminate that problem. If you noticed on the agenda, I also put on and/or a temporary fix for our current system. The problem is a new system would not be up and operating in time for this storm season. I talked to Caleb Laddick with Farmers Electric to see if there was something he could put in each of our units now to activate them electronically without using copper lines through the telephone system. He can do that. The cost of that would run $1,150 per siren installed, plus $120 per year subscription fee to the company, and it would be an app-based cell phone activation. The problem is not that our sirens don't work. The problem is we can't turn them on because of the telephone line problem. Now, we wouldn't be just throwing that away. Brian has, I believe, asked Caleb about putting a similar system on the pumps at the lagoon. This system Caleb would put in for a temporary fix would be able to be reprogrammed and moved to the lagoon system. So we would be using at least two of those, right? Two of those four controllers out there. Caleb's got the same controllers on the generators on our water wells. So it's equipment we're already using. And I know probably you're questioning where we're going to come up with, I'm sorry, it's page 4, I said page 3, with $171,616.80. We have got a public safety restricted sales tax that's got, I believe, in the neighborhood of 850,000 in it. I think Frank's looking for it as we speak.
Yep. Yeah, as of June of 22nd, you've got 839,000 emergency services sales tax. So,
And this
and
would
that's only going
qualify.
to be up more than that, yeah. So, and that's out of the total restricted sales tax fund that has $2.3 million in it, restricted for various things. But the segment that's restricted for emergency sales tax is almost 840,000, and that was 8 months ago. So it's probably gotten higher because of the last 8 months of sales tax.
I think, and let me back up a little bit. Federal Sign and Signal, who would be the manufacturer of this equipment, in fact, it's the same brand of sirens that we've got now that are 50 and 60 years old each. They did an engineered sound study on the community of what they thought that we needed. I think I had that here with me last time. I apologize, I don't tonight. But there were zones, and I asked the company at Chickasaw to up us one level for better coverage. So it added about $12,000 to this quote. But I feel like if we're spending this kind of money, I want to make sure everybody in town is able to hear these. And I do not want to get caught in a storm event and not be able to warn our citizens.
You've actually got two buckets that you could pull it from. There's a capital outlay bucket also that has 817,000. So you could pull it from that one since this is capital. So really have two buckets with over 800,000 in each one that you could pull it from.
Okay. So it's going to set us back, but it's not, I mean, it's doable. Any comments or questions?
I think one life saved is worth
Absolutely.
$176,000.
Absolutely.
So that's not a question. And also, we was told that we have the money available. I would make a motion to go ahead and hire Caleb to make our sirens workable, and also hire Chickasaw to install our sirens.
Okay, probably need to accept and if you'll notice the very top of page 1, under description, the siren quote matches the OMES state contract, and he's got the state contract's numbers on there, so that will allow us to proceed.
Bert, how long will it take once you get the order, place the order?
He wasn't completely sure on how long it would take everything to come in. He was hoping end of summer, early fall type of situation. Caleb can do the temporary fix, he said, in about 3 weeks. So I'm hoping to get it done before the major portions, yeah.
So my first motion is to hire Farmer Electric to make the town sirens workable.
A second then. Roll call?
Cliff,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So was there a total amount of what Caleb's?
It's gonna be $11.50 each times 4,
Okay.
plus 120 each times 4, so that'd be what? Counting?
I wouldn't even know. I missed the first part of it, I heard about 20 times 4.
It's gonna be about
Yeah, I was gonna say
$1,250
it's a little over $1,000.
times 4, so you're probably looking at close to 5,000 for it.
But in the long run, we're gonna have to have those parts anyway for when they do the other stuff, correct?
Right.
So, I'm just understand anyway.
And the key, as I mentioned earlier, in that big pair of pants that municipal finance has, that money's not coming out of our 2 main pockets. It's coming out of one of those zippered pockets that's there just for this. So it doesn't affect the general fund, it doesn't affect where the utility fund is literally coming out of the restricted sales tax pocket. So that's what it's there for.
Something else I might add with this system is if the school or the nursing home, any family that's got anybody hearing impaired, they can purchase a box to put in their house, and anytime our storm sirens are activated, that would go off in their homes as well. So
Are they expensive?
I am not sure, Shelley, what they run. I wouldn't think it would be that much, because it would just be a receiver that would get the signal and put off a tone, but
Is that something we could send out to like all the patrons in town? Or advertise if they wanted to purchase that once the system's up and going?
mhm.
Okay.
Bear with me, I write it slow.
Have you spent the ARPA money yet, or is it still sitting in cash?
only spent a little bit.
We only spent a little bit of it. So, I mean, there's another alternative. I mean, that ARPA money that you guys have to spend or commit sometime before December of 2024 to something, that would be a valid project for it also. So plenty of cash there to do it.
Okay, I make a motion to contract with Chickasaw Personal Communications to replace the storm siren system under state contract in the amount of $171,616.80.
Second.
Roll call?
Bert,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Discussion with possible action to set the 2023 prices for the Hennessey Aquatic Center.
Last year, the prices were up to 2 years old, $2, 3 to 17, $3, 18 to 64 years old, $4, 65 and older, $2. Parties were $200 and a $50 deposit. They had night swims on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Parties were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with 2 on Saturday evening. It was suggested that we can do another one on Friday as well and have 2 parties Friday and 2 parties Saturday, which would increase. But that was the prices, $2, $3, $4, $2, and then $200 for parties.
That was last year's
That was
price.
last year's prices, yeah.
What about, family passes and single passes?
Well, Landon asked me for those.
Slacker.
Because single was 75 and family was 150.
Are you recommending any changes? I'm not sure. I think the pool, I think it pretty much was pretty much broke even, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Lost $2,800.
it was around even. We added one guard on duty last year, so.
I think we could have that second party on Fridays and still book it out. We can have enough guards.
Yeah.
Because we've already had people wanting to call and reserve.
Wait for it to get done snowing.
I tell you what, guys, and I'm preaching to the choir here, because you guys hear it every day throughout the summer as well. But that aquatic park is such a draw. I went to the Main Street networking event night before last, and the gentleman from Enid that presented had a picture of our aquatic park and bragged on it and said there's just nothing like it in Enid. I hate to really raise the prices unless it's necessary to cover expense, because I just feel like it is such an important part that our children get to participate in, and for young people. And I would hate to think that a kid couldn't go swimming because he didn't have the funds to do it. So, I don't know, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
I agree. I would like to keep the prices up like this. I mean, people come from Enid and people come from other places to use our swimming pool, and then they eat at our restaurants, they buy our gas, and we get a lot of visual effect from that, so I would like to keep the same price.
Yeah, I would price this fine.
I'm good.
So far, we've already had 3 schools call to reserve.
When are you opening party reservations?
April 3rd at 8:30. Last year, we got to work and we had a lady sitting on our bench at 7:30 that morning to make sure she could be there at 8:30 and get her day.
Okay, I'll make a motion that pool prices remain the same as the 2022 season.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Bert,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, item G is discussion with possible action to have the Oklahoma State Auditor come in and do an audit. Harold?
I was approached by some citizens in Hennessey that they thought since what's going on with our town administration and stuff, that we ought to have the Oklahoma State auditors come in and do an audit. So I went down and talked to Ms. Holt. Ms. Holt told me that the only way that they would come in and do an audit would be if the town board approved it, so I put it on there.
One thing I don't understand, if these citizens want an audit, where are they? Why aren't they here tonight?
Some of them are.
Okay.
I talked to Ms. Holt. What the biggest thing,
Who's Miss Holton?
she runs the state audit department.
Okay.
You know, she told me when you have an administrator that's been here for 17 years, that it is a good thing to have somebody come in that don't audit you every year, the same people, and to look at the numbers, so.
If I might clarify my position on it, is absolutely not to be making accusations about anybody on any side. It's just like he had mentioned, it's been such a long term. I think both people coming in and going out would like to be assured that everything's, here we go, you know, nothing's, because I would, if I was a new guy coming in, I wouldn't want to be blamed for something else. Tiffany's done such a good job, you know, going out, she shouldn't have anything to worry about. It's just to draw a baseline, and that's, I think it needs done. I mean, not in regularly. I don't suspect anything, I just think it needs to be done by a professional.
Well, and I'm not arguing this point, I mean, the town has nothing to hide whatsoever. But I know that we pay a CPA firm every year, we pay an independent auditing firm every year who
But
draws
they
that audit.
audit financials. What I'm talking would be more of a spot forensic type audit. Like you pick an account and say, you know, I think this is off because, you know, we thought this was making so much money and then all of a sudden there's no money in that general account or whatever.
Which when I was talking to Ms. Holt, she mentioned them, she might even call these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if you talked to her at any length about when they would come, but they're a year and a half out. If you were to request a special audit today, the first thing they're gonna do is they're gonna ask you, you can't just say, well, we want an audit.
Correct.
You gotta narrow it. You gotta say, I want you to look at this, this, and this. Once you develop that list, then they'll come and say, okay, you're gonna be 80th in line, you're behind these 79 other communities or schools or something, and that looks like we won't get to you till 2025, or something like that. In other words, even though you'll request it, they're gonna charge you for it, they're gonna come up with a cost of how much time it takes.
It's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap.
$10,000.
So, yeah,
$10,000.
well, you ought to talk to Henrietta about that. It was 75,000 in Henrietta 2 years in a row, when they called in a special audit, and then neither one of them found really anything at all. So it can get kind of costly, and then it's not quick. It's not happening right away. So, you know, a lot happens in that year and a half. But again, you're right, the financial stuff, you know, the checks, the balances, the revenue coming in, all of that's looked at by multiple groups. But, you know, what we don't look at is something that isn't financial. You know, did somebody, you know, get a kickback or something under the table? Or did somebody do something that's not in the financials? And you'd have to specifically narrow your list down to the state auditor. Here's what we want you to examine or we want you to look at. But again, if you do that, just be prepared that it's not gonna happen for a long time. The other alternative the state auditor will tell you is to hire someone else, to hire another accountant or another CPA who might do this type of forensic work, and maybe they can get to it quicker. But again, that's another thing that's gonna cost you, you know, and again, it's all based on how many things. If you got 2 things to look at, you're not gonna pay $75,000. If you come up with a list of 20 things to look at, now you're gonna talk about paying out a lot of money, so.
She told me 5 things is what they would look at, 10,000.
Yeah, so
whatever we want.
you'd have to narrow those 5 things to whatever it is that you think is at the most risk of not being right. And so, but again, just to prepare you for.
And I would hope there'd be nothing wrong. You know.
Yeah, and again, you know, a lot of these audits that they'll do don't find anything but just really minor stuff. 2 signatures weren't on a check instead of the 1 signature. In other words, they'll look at a bunch of stuff, but you have to narrow what it is you want them to look at, and then it's you know, basically.
She said some of the things that they actually could contact the accountant that did our audit, what she described, which we know that did it, was we turn over 5 subjects what our accountants did.
Yeah.
And we give them what we want them to look at.
Sure.
And they could question that, you know.
Yeah, usually the first call they'll make is they'll see who your accountants and your auditors are, they'll call them.
They did,
So,
she knew it before I got into the office.
Yeah, they call quite often, and so we turn over all our stuff to them if they're gonna go do an audit, so then they'll look at what we've done, they'll look at what your auditor has done, and see whether or not they can answer any of those 5 questions from that. Now, if it's non-financial related, then it probably isn't gonna be something that we or someone else would have looked at. So it really's, you know, it's up to you guys. It's one of those deals where, you know, you kinda have to gauge, is that the best use of the municipality's money? And is it, you know, is it worth spending that amount of time? But it's not gonna happen quick. I can almost assure you that they'll tell you, you know, if you request as the town board, or if you develop a citizen's petition, you know, and you get, I think it's 10% of the number of voters that voted in the last general election, you get those, you know, enough of those signatures, they'll be required to come in, just like if the town board votes it, but there's no time. They'll basically slot you in a list behind everybody else who's requested one, and last time I heard it was a year and a half running, so.
Well, to me, time should not even be a factor. I mean, if you think there's a need to do it, you know, I mean, because I know even the auditor that came in, you know, that thing takes several months, you know, so. No, I didn't mean it would happen overnight or anything.
Sure.
I just think it'd be maybe I'm wrong, and I've talked to other people who's talked to me, that's why I brought it up. And so I'll do my part.
And another alternative, and again, I know, you know, maybe you want something independent of us, but if there's a list of 5 or 6 things, we may be able to look at it very quickly and produce something. I mean, in other words, but again, you may look at me as more a part of the town as opposed to somebody independent, so I'm just throwing that out there, that if you want it done quickly, you're probably not gonna get it done through the state auditor's office. It's just not gonna happen. They just can't do it that quick. They don't have the resources right now. But again, you know, there could be 5 or 6 things that I already know the answer to, or that I may have got some knowledge on just because of our history with the town. So it kind of just depends on what it is and what you want looked at, and whether there's a suspicion of something, and then whether or not there's some evidence that can prove
How does
one way or the other.
State auditor's office work? If you ask for an audit and you say, yeah, I want to look at this, this, and this, what happens? Do they provide you, the town, with an estimate of the cost, and then you approve it or disapprove it based on the cost? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, once you decide whether you want the state auditor to come in to do something or not, you'll have to tell them what it is you want them to look at. And then based on how many things you come up with, 5, 10, 15, 20, they'll estimate a cost and tell you, okay, here's what your audit's gonna cost, and, you know, do you want to do this? Do you want to go through with it? And of course, then you can basically say, well, no, we rescind our request, or nah, well, it's all right, we'll have somebody else do it. That's pretty much how it works. But timing wise, they kind of slot you in based on when you requested it, and then you slot in right behind however many others are there, so.
And I assume they would be gathering information from your firm.
That's probably where they'd start. The first call they'd make would probably be to us and say, what, you know, do you have any information about these 5 or 6 things or whatever? And I would either say yes or no, and then I'd give them, you know, access to my work papers, an hour work papers, so So they'll start there.
So in addition to their fees, we would have some fees with your firm. as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even wanna say that would be, it's minimal. I mean, it'd just be the time that I needed to communicate with them and give them access to my file, so it's not.
I don't know if this was something that's gonna take hours.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just give them electronic, I give them everything. Say, here's everything we've got, everything that we do. You know, if what you're looking for falls within these parameters, it's probably here and this stuff, and I just give it to them electronically. And then that way they can peruse through it and go through whatever they want. And they'll do the same thing with the financial statement auditor to see if it's something they might have addressed, you know, so. A lot of times we get called about utilities revenue and whether we're getting all the utility revenue that we think we should be getting. Court fines is another one that seems to be, any time that we're collecting a lot of cash in small amounts, you know, so. Those are two of the typical things that get looked at, you know, quite often, but again, just generically, if you don't really have a suspicion of what's going on, so.
So I would assume that the town board would meet and choose these areas.
Yeah, I mean, now, it happens a couple of ways. If the town board is gonna request, yeah, you would probably wanna meet with the citizens and kind of develop a group committee or something to figure out, okay, what is it that we want looked at? The citizens, though, could actually put in a petition, we want the state auditor to come in and look at this, 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 and this, and then go get the 10% of the signatures required, and then those would become the de facto things that the state auditor would look at. So, you know, it's kind of a whichever way you would rather do it. If the board comes up with 5 things, and then you sit with the citizens and they say, well, these aren't the 5 things we would have came up with, then, you know.
Well, I'm sure.
You either gotta go back and redraw up the 5, or they're gonna go the citizen petition route.
I'm sure as soon as this hits Facebook, there's gonna be 40 things or 100 that
Well,
the citizens are gonna think we need to look at. I will tell you without hesitation, I have no doubt in my mind that a state audit would come back perfectly clean. We're in a catch-22 here because if we don't vote to do this, then it makes it look like we have something to hide. If we do vote to do it, then we're, in my opinion, frivolously spending taxpayer money. So, there we go. I mean, Frank, I have utmost confidence in your firm. I would stake anything I had on your accuracy and on the auditing firm as well.
yeah, as I keep hearing, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of people are questioning financial issues. There seems to be something else. If you're gonna continue talking about this or thinking about pursuing it, my recommendation would simply be, why don't you get together with the citizens that are maybe clamoring for this, and see if you can hammer out what 5, 6, 10 things they kinda want looked at. And maybe I could whittle that list down and say, well, gosh, I can tell you about this, I can tell you about this, or I can show you this.
No offense.
No, I get it.
You know, I do consider you part of the,
And you should,
you know.
yeah, I'm part of the town. I mean, I'm part of
And when you get
management.
the audit from the same auditor year after year after year, with absolutely no notations of any type of irregularity, that is strange in and of itself.
Yeah, now
We did,
Nope.
we have about
It was
every
not
couple
on
of
the-
years,
it
they
was-
tell
right.
us
It was not on the
procedure.
report that you gave everybody, the
Yeah,
auditor's
The
report.
Not
last,
this-
the
not
last
this one.
report
Not this
had
time.
no findings, but there's been on occasion what they call internal control weaknesses, and then the point of those is they basically disclose that, hey, you know, you're not safeguarding this area of money the way you should, so we recommend you add another procedure, and then they do that, and then that finding gets corrected, and
But they made such a point of saying that, I don't know how to word this, that they have a relationship with the town, and it's better to stay with the same people because they know the town, how it operates. There's pluses and minuses.
you know, the audit firm that you know, there are governments that have the same auditor for 25 years, and then there are governments that rotate it every 3.
Yeah.
And that'd be an alternative that the town could seek bids for another financial statement auditor, and then let 5 or 6 firms propose and let the town choose somebody other than the current one.
True. And
I mean, that's another alternative, to have them look at, you know, because we're 8 months through this fiscal year. So at June 30 of 2023, it's time for another audit. You know, if you want to have a different set of eyes on it, that would be the fastest way. But again, they're gonna focus on finance stuff, you know, the stuff you see in the report but as part of the verification of the numbers, they also look at how the town does things, how they safeguard their money, whether they segregate their duties correct, whether they're reconciling cash every month and things of that nature. But again, that's probably the fastest, easiest way to get a different set of eyes on something. But again, that's all numbers and finance related. They're not gonna look at behaviors or decisions made that should have been made a different way or things of that nature. So it all kind of depends on what it is you want looked at. And I would recommend that maybe you all get together and say, hey, do we really want to do this? Are these 5 or 6 things really worthy of looking at? Or can we get this covered by hiring a new auditor and putting it in the competitive bid proposal and say, hey, we want you to look at these 5 things specifically while you're here doing the financial statement audit. That might be the cheapest, easiest, fastest way
Well, I'm
to do
just
it.
throwing it out because I feel, and there's been others too, that it needs to be brought that it's time if you want to do one, because you've got a change in staff, just to make sure that everything's on the level, you know. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but then I'm also saying that it's the board's decision, you know, the trustees' decision. I'm just laying it, is it something you might want to consider doing?
The petition, 10% of the people that vote, right?
I believe the law says 10% of not the number of registered voters, but the 10% of the voters that actually voted in the last general election.
So that was 120 people.
Was it general?
That's 12 people.
Yeah, I thought it was the last general election, so if 100 people,
That's all it was.
yeah, 100 people voted, I mean,
Count the marijuana, you count the marijuana vote when you said that.
Yeah, I know, that's why
So I
I
mean,
said it has to
that
be
route is open and doesn't require a whole lot of stuff, but again, that's one way that process starts, even if the board decides, you know, not to go that route, the citizens have an alternative. But again, you get into that delay part where it's not gonna happen anytime soon, so if your need is immediate and you want these things looked at quickly and you can identify them, you can make it part of the next financial statement audit and say, hey, while you're auditing the books, I want you to look at this, and this specifically, and tell us what you found. And that'll get it done faster by someone that you guys choose to do. It won't be the state auditor because they won't be able to do it that fast, but that's one of your alternatives, so just throwing that out there.
So if the 10% of the people requested that, who pays the bill?
The 10%.
No, not the 10%. That'd be wonderful for the town if that was what happened. The 10 people that signed that petition had to pay it, but that's not the way it works. The town's gonna pay it right out of one of these pockets. And it won't be any of the special pockets, it'll be the 2 main pockets, like the general fund or the municipal authority. And Henrietta, for example, they temporarily raised their water and sewer rates to generate the additional $75,000 to pay for the audit. And then took the rates off after they gathered the $75,000 in order to pay for the audit. And
I
then,
think that's a wonderful idea.
yeah, well, it's an unusual way to do it, but that kept them from having to fund it out of their own normal day-to-day operations. Now, that also kind of made the citizens rethink, well, next time that petition comes around, I don't think I'm gonna sign it because my water bill went up because I signed it, so.
I wish this issue would have come up in time for us to get it on the ballot for the April election, because I would like to know exactly how many citizens think it's worthy of spending how many ever $1,000 it's gonna cost. And if that would have happened, that would have eliminated us being put in the position of, we try to save the taxpayers some money and vote no, and then we'll be accused of trying to hide something. And it's kind of odd to me that this come up right before an election.
No, I've been talking about it since last April.
But that's neither here nor there. But, you know,
Why can't we table it until after
we
the
can
election?
table it, and I would have absolutely no problem with getting a new audit firm to do this next audit that's gonna expire in June. Because we're gonna be.
My question is, I asked for a different audit a year ago, and I was told no. You know, same one we used, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's what I was
I
told.
think you talked to me about it.
You know,
And
and
what-
I talked right here about it.
And I mean, you know, you may seek bids, if you do this route where you seek bids from some audit firms, let's say you get 5 or 6 bids. What happens if the auditor that you have now is the cheapest or lowest bid? Again, you're not required to give the award to the lowest bid, you're required to give it to the lowest and best bid. So if you determine that in the citizen's interest, the best bid would be not to go with the low because you wanna rotate, then you could go with someone else. I mean, that's just I would just say the transparency between the citizens and the council ought to be more open.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and it's great that you're here.
But let me tell you this too, is if you can change it to add it to your standard audit, that's fine. I'm just saying there's other areas we ought to be looking on spot checks, I guess is what I'm saying.
What areas? I mean, I'm curious to see what areas, if it's not financial or
It is.
anything like
No,
that.
it is, it's all financial.
Oh, well, you said it wasn't, so.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
you did.
Yeah, you did.
No, I misspoke. Yes, it is financial. Well,
I
meant
think
to-
that that's
I meant-
why
no,
we're
no,
all
no,
lost.
No. I meant to say it wasn't like it wasn't personal, like you were taking money or anything like that. That wasn't what I was trying to say.
Yeah, you know, one of the
I'm
things
not worried about that
one of
anyway,
the things that auditors do is, they can't audit every single transaction. I mean, they
No.
never get done.
Right.
So if there's an area or a line item or a particular transaction that you want looked at, you can build that into the audit and say, hey, while you're auditing the books, we want you to look at this, 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 and this. That's the route that's gonna get it to you the fastest.
Well, I don't know how this works, okay, but if I could, however you wanna word it, could come to you guys afterwards, whatever, and tell you the example that I've got that came up, I can do it, or I can do it right now, but I don't have exactly all the facts, I'd have to have some help.
Well, I would suggest that you get with the group that you
Well, I know
represent.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe
most-
you got one, it sounds like you've got one issue that you wanna look at, or a couple.
That I
issues.
know about, that affected me.
Yeah, maybe there's
kinda,
3 or
so.
4 other issues. I think what you guys need to do is coordinate.
Well, the
And-
only problem is I can't talk with more than one.
Well, it needs to be done in an open meeting.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just, how much longer do I have here? I know we're 9 o'clock.
Oh, my God.
Well, the only thing we've got on, the agenda, Frank, is to discuss with possible action to have Oklahoma State Auditor come in and do an audit. So we can't really take action on anything else, but maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, I guess we could go that, and I could always ask somebody to bring back another motion at another meeting and talk about this, because it's not like
We can table it.
yeah, that's.
You can
what-
table this and then get all of the issues together, where you could bring it to a public meeting, say, here are the 5 things that we wanna look at, and then would you guys rather go the state auditor route? Or would you rather try to build these 5 things into the next audit contract of your
Or
financial statement audit?
Can they be answered and it goes away?
That's a third alternative. It depends on whether the citizens would be happy with who's answering it.
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm answering it and they perceive me as just part of the town, then that may not satisfy their inquiry.
Right.
Because make no mistake, you're exactly right. We are a part of the management of the town. So we're not independent, we don't claim to be independent, but I'm much like the mayor. I don't think from a financial perspective, anybody's gonna find anything of any substance missing. Now, did the drawer balance to the penny, or was it off 80 cents one day? Yeah, you're gonna find longs and shorts, you're gonna find things of that nature, but from a material error standpoint, I'd be really surprised just from the amount of eyes that are watching this stuff, whether there's anything of any substance. And again,
No, in my,
you're not making any accusations, you don't know whether
No.
there's any there, you're just wanting some assurance that there's not.
right,
And that makes perfect
and
sense.
is money being put where it's supposed to be?
And again,
I
that's,
have a couple of questions.
sure.
Henrietta cost $75,000. What was their annual budget?
Oh, gosh, I would say Henrietta is probably a little bigger than you, but not much. So if you're about a $4 million annual revenue and expense generation, and that's what you were in '22, but ARPA was part of that too, which is kind of one-time money. So I would say Henrietta's probably, maybe 6-7 million. I mean, it's a little bigger.
Do you know why they pursued it and ran up a bill of $75,000?
Well, they have a, I don't know how to put this, they have a very aggressive citizen in Henrietta who kind of distrusts all of the city council, and it doesn't really matter who's on the city council. He's threatened them, so they've got a protective order against him. So his response is basically to go get citizens petition signatures and to take it back to the city, and once they get the 10%, they send it to the state auditor, and now they're obligated to go do it. And he'll just make up 25 issues, 24 of them are not legitimate, and one might be legitimate, but there's no error in it, but they still have to go through all of the work to do it. So, it's happened, he's actually done 2 petitions in a row. First time he did it, they didn't have any findings, so he said, well, by gosh, I'll do another one. So he started another one, did it again, and both times Henrietta said, look, we're not gonna pass this out of our pockets. We're gonna go raise utility rates and make all of the citizens pay for this, and then maybe they'll think twice about signing an executive petition that has no meat to it, in that scenario. So that's kind of why it costs, because there's 25 items on those
Now, you've
petitions.
tried the unusual case where you've got this citizen pushing the buttons all the time. What would be a more typical case? It sounds like you've dealt with this state audit agency. What is a more typical average situation? I would think that in an audit that, you're not gonna look at 36 things, that you're gonna focus on 2, 3, or 4 things. What would the typical situation on the cost be?
Well, let me.
Since you seem to be so familiar with this process.
It all kind of depends on what number of things you're looking for and how intrusive they are. For example, the state auditor's office got called into the town of Hartshorn a few years ago. The allegations were from the citizens that we're not sure all the money that we're paying in is going where it's supposed to go. What they found was that $2.4 million had been embezzled. And that no one, and this was over several years, obviously, and that one of the easiest ways to find it would have been somebody just looking at the daily deposits and noticing that there's no cash that's ever deposited. Only checks or credit cards, meaning that nobody ever came in and paid their utility bill with cash, nobody came and paid anything with cash at City Hall. So just a simple procedure, but yet no one did it. No accountant did it, no auditor did it. So they get called in to do stuff like that when there's a suspicion of some major wrongdoing. And of course, when they find 1 month that doesn't have any cash deposited, then that raises a red flag, and they say, well, let's go look at another month. They don't see any cash deposited that month. Now they're thinking, okay, there's a big scheme here, so now they're gonna go look at all 12. If they had looked in the first month and saw cash being deposited nearly every day, they wouldn't have done anything. They would have stopped at that point and done no more test work. So it's hard to pinpoint, how long or how much something costs, because it all depends on what it is you have them looking at and whether or not they think they've gathered enough evidence to say, yes, this is bad, or no, this is not bad. So
I wish
kind of
our
hard.
town attorney was here, because Ms. Holt said that our town attorney has represented like 4 towns, the state auditors, that's came in.
Who's the town attorney? What's his?
John Lynn.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it seems like nearly every city or town has had a state audit roll through, in the last 10 years or so. If you haven't, then, you know, that's great. But
That's another one that we could, as a board, we could talk to our town attorney. And
Well, like I said, if we're gonna do something, I would recommend making a change in the auditor, and if we need to add some things to that audit, do that, because it may cost more, well, it will cost more, but I would rather do it that way, and hopefully it would be less than what we would spend with the state.
And I don't want to disparage the current audit firm. I mean, I know who they are, I deal with them and, you know, a dozen other audit firms throughout the state. They've got a great reputation, they do good work, but like you said, they've done it 17 years.
I don't know.
I don't know how long they've been the auditor. And is it good to go test the market every once in a while to see if you're getting what you're paying for? Of course it is. So you could go through this whole bid process and still find that, well, they still seem to be the most qualified and the best firm. Sit them down and say, hey, in your audit this year, even though you've done all the audits for the last 17 years, I want you to do this, 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 and this, and this specifically.
That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, and so, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's them or someone else or the state auditor, you need to isolate out what you want them to spend more time at looking.
Each time is different.
Yeah, it could.
That's my point, is
Sure.
making a spot check
Sure.
now and then, just to kind of check things.
And what most auditors do anytime is that, since they can't test every transaction, they'll go pick samples of all of the major transactions. So they'll go sample utility revenue, they'll go sample court fine revenue, they'll sample the receivables, they'll sample cash, bank recs. In other words, they can't do it all, but they'll sample them, and if they don't have any trouble with it, then they just push it to the side and they go look at something else.
Well, it's hard to believe if you've got $4 million that somebody's taking money. That's not what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I got you.
But I just think it needs to be a clean look.
Yeah, I got you. I think you got alternatives, so what I would do is, again, I just recommend that you get with the group, see if you can figure out what
I
specifically
think
they
they'd
want
be
looked
happy,
at.
that's just what they want, is something a little more than just a cookie
Yeah.
cutter.
I think you can get that done quickly, and I think you can get it done at a minimal cost by making the next auditor
Yeah, right.
do that in addition to the auditing of the regular base financials.
So here we are in mid-March, close to it. The fiscal year ends June 30th, so if we're gonna go out for bids for an auditor, we need to be doing that quick.
I've written a dozen sample RFPs for audit services. I can spend 10 minutes and change the name to Hennessey and send it to you and let you look at it. And if you guys are okay with it, launch it out there and see what you get.
I mean, this is your agenda item.
I think I
I'd say
did,
we could either
I
do
think I
that,
did
go
what-
out for bids for,
I think I did what people in the town of Hennessey asked me to do. I went to the state auditor,
okay,
my deal is right now, it's time for election. There might be two more board members sitting on this board that has different opinions than what is on here right now.
sure.
I can't speak for them, I know what Ms. Holt told me, I know how long, she kinda told me, I kinda understand what the audit that we have done gave us, we got a clean bill of health, but it's also, it's what we gave them to audit, and we could've known it was gonna be a clean bill of health when we gave it to them.
No, I didn't exactly how it worked.
I would encourage anybody, when the auditor comes, to come in and see kind of what they do. I mean, they go through our system and then they pick stuff in our system, so we don't even know what they're gonna select. We don't know what municipal court receipts they're gonna select, what cash receipts they're gonna select, what invoices they're gonna select, or anything until they get on site.
And it's a process.
Yes, and so I would encourage any board member or concerned citizen to come in when that auditor comes in here, because it's a whole new world.
And they can go do all the digging.
They're not fun.
Yeah, so the digging's the hard part.
And what I'm getting at, Harold, is this, that if you feel, or the citizens who approached you feel like that a new auditor would work with some additional duties, then we need to get on that quickly. If they want to keep pursuing going the other way with the state auditor, then I think we need to have a meeting, have those citizens here. It needs to be done in a meeting in front of the full board.
But a lot of that can't be aired over the internet.
Why?
Because you cannot talk about town employees, you cannot talk about, so plain and simple. You've stated that right here, you know, so you cannot discuss.
Well, how are you gonna do it then?
Well, you can have an executive session. So,
I mean,
That might be a little tricky. You know, there's only two reasons you can go into executive session. One's litigation, the other's personnel. But, you know, I'm sure that, again, I'm not the town attorney, so
I
that's.
mean, my deal would be, like I said, you know, he's not here tonight, so you can't ask the attorney nothing. You know, my deal would be to bring another auditor in here. You know, start, you know, not the state auditor, but for this year, have another auditor.
another firm.
Do it.
And isolate the areas that the citizens are bringing to you to look at
Yeah,
specifically.
Because you don't want to go to, I can get a petition, you know, and you had 200 people vote. So I'm going to have to go get 20 votes in town. I could probably walk down my street and get 20 people. You know?
But you still have to set a scope, still gotta tell them what they want to look at. So again, if you want it done fast, you do it through the audit world.
This whole, their exact words was, you gotta get town approval, you know, the town board approval, and you got, if you want 5 items to look at, you have to put that down, and you gotta bring that to her, and then they will pursue from there, you know, or there's alternatives. But she said this is where we can go this route, bring another auditor in. You know, she knew you guys, she knew the auditing firm that did our audit, she knew everything about it before I walked in there. So, you know, so she did her homework, you know, I did mine, you know. She knew Tiffany introduced her into the OML class over there, you know, so, you know, so it wasn't a shock to her. You know, so, but that would be my deal is hire another auditing firm for the new fiscal year.
And I don't think we can do that tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the route you wanna go, I'll email you an RFP, a sample RFP of how you would send that out, and then let the firms propose. And then once you decide which firm you're gonna go with, they'll wanna set up what's called an engagement letter, and it's in that letter that you will then specify, hey, I know you quoted this price to do the audit, but how much extra would it cost for you to do this, this, and this?
And when does this audit that we just have expire? It has to be redone. It's yearly?
It's every year.
June 30th.
Yeah,
And
June
they
30th.
start on August, or they start on it in July.
Yeah, the financial statements have to be kind of compiled into this special format, and then once that happens, which is usually August, the auditors can start
Well, I
auditing.
think, to me, back to what we've been talking about, I don't think it's worth the city to spend for another audit between now and then. I'm asking that you just have it looked at when you do your normal thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like there's a national emergency that something's happened that I'm aware of that's gotta be addressed right now. If it did happen, what we're thinking, whatever, it can be dealt with at that time. Which I'm hoping is not there.
That's clearly your fastest and probably most inexpensive alternative, is to go that route.
Now, I have a question. When the auditor presented the results, they said that they would come back in and spot check if we wanted to do that. It seems as, can we just designate, well, we're gonna select a few areas and spot check them?
Sure.
We have no evidence that anything is wrong, but we wanna do a few spot checks, just to make sure.
Yeah, and whether
You
you hire
don't
that
have to-
auditor or any other auditor, you could do that.
A town council member or a citizen doesn't have to come in and say, I got proof of wrongdoing. Just say, I just want to do a spot check.
Sure. Yeah, you could hire the firm that did your last audit, or you can hire the firm that's gonna do the next one, or you can hire somebody completely independent of all of them and say, what would it cost you to come in and look at these 5 things? I mean, it's much like what you're gonna ask the state auditor to do, except you're gonna get it done faster. State auditor is not gonna come for a year or more, maybe a year and a half. So, but again, the fastest, cheapest way to do it would be to have who you had already that's most familiar with town records, but that may not be independent enough for the citizens. They want some clean set of eyes, so again, you're just, it's one of those deals about, okay, how much is it gonna cost to get this done? And what is it worth to the town?
And we can get cost estimates from a private accounting firm, and at the same time, we can get a cost estimate from the state audit.
You could, sure.
Yeah, we can
As
from
long
both.
as you know what it is that you want both groups to do. That's the key. You just can't code anybody and say, well, we want an audit, because that entails way too many broad things. You gotta say, we want you to look at this set of transactions, or this project, or this account line item, or this transaction class.
Sounds like it's something specific, I mean.
I have I have one item, yeah, that I know of, but I get told all the time, well, why don't somebody check this other a little more? Why don't they check this to make sure? Because it's, and then you go back to the old, as you're aware, how much of it's hearsay,
Yeah.
you know?
So can I ask why nobody's came in and done like a record request and asked to look at those records?
Well, I think that's where it originated. Is somebody came in and asked a question about income on a certain area, and it didn't match up with what was showing up later.
When did they come? Because I've not taken any record requests in, I mean, I'm just curious.
I think it was either verbal or, you know, text or email, I'm not sure.
It wasn't text or email from me or verbal.
Everything has to be either copied or they review the books in-house.
I mean, I'm just curious why they don't come and ask. I mean, to save $10,000 to come and say, hey, can I look at this?
You may get one tomorrow from me, you know.
I'll be here from 8:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, and again, I mean, maybe this gets resolved, as you said, without anything, if you can get the answers to your questions. But again, it all lies within the records here at City Hall. City's got nothing to hide. If they did, I wouldn't be involved. I'm not staking my reputation of my 35 years, 37 years of being in business on the town of Hennessey. I appreciate the town of Hennessey, and as I said, I have a special place in our heart for Hennessey since it was one of our first clients. But I can assure you, if there was inappropriate things going on here, I would not be involved. I would be moving on. So again, if you can get those questions answered, or you can get the citizens satisfied
I'll
by.
try to get mine answered.
Yeah, please do, and then.
What area, I mean, what is yours?
Am I allowed to talk about it? I mean, can we?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, it concerned the RV dump
Okay.
and the revenue that was being generated from it. And it got shut down and it hadn't been fixed, it was paid for. But then when the question came up in a meeting about what the revenue was from that RV, it was a whole different number. Because there's people around town that use that, the septic companies, and they were paying a hefty fee. And those are some of the people that's asked me about it.
Right.
Somebody could certainly go in and recreate every transaction related to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all, yeah.
And see the ins and outs of that. I mean, I don't know specifically what we're talking about, but I'm sure you guys do. And
That's Crawford's, you could even call Crawford's and they can look into that one because they have, they can pull it off.
we've got all the records of what's going in and out, so, yeah, I mean, but those records are here. I mean, they're your records, City Hall's records, so, Town Hall's records, so. Yeah, if I just knew more specifics about, you know, the accusation and how much money that was claimed versus how much was being reported and where they saw that information, that would be part of how to solve this, but those records are here somewhere, so. And
Be
that would,
cheaper than $10,000 for taxpayers.
But again, remember,
I don't
that's
know
also, that's also one of those things you can add into your normal audit contract and say, hey, I want you to pay particular attention to revenues generated from the RV dump. And get someone who doesn't have any affiliation with the town to look at it too, so. But you
And I
might,
think if you indicate that area, they may go and they may pull like every bill and
sure,
every receipt and stuff for that too.
Yep.
I think we should ask them to.
yeah,
think so
and
too.
in fact, if somebody made a record request along that line, the town would pull every receipt and make copies of it and every transaction related to it. And then you could recreate the whole thing yourselves if you wanted to, so.
Well, I thank you for your time, and that's where I stand.
While we're on that though, the town board members do not have to request a form sheet.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till just now.
We
If
are
it
subject
pertains
to,
to your job.
we are subject to any records that we want.
But if it's pertaining to,
Financial records,
financial records, yes, but if it's concerning in personnel, then I don't think so.
you know, I know that I asked for certain stuff and I got told no, so, you know.
Did you, I don't know who you spoke to, so it wasn't me.
I'm not gonna say right here, so let's go on. So, you know, I've talked to you about it already, so.
Talking about my fire chief thing?
Yeah.
What do you wanna know? I'll be glad to tell you.
Yeah. Where's the records?
Where's what records?
The records of fireman's pay
They're in
and
payroll.
marriage pay, yeah.
Fireman's pay?
Yes.
Your record.
Mhm.
Is that what he said?
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
ask him.
When I got on the town board in 2003, I was being paid $400 a month to be the fire chief. So I forfeited that and have not taken it since. And I've got nothing to hide. I'm glad to, more than happy to tell you right here to everybody. So if you take $400 a month, that's $4,800 a year times 20 years. It has cost me $96,000 to serve on this board. And I have done that because I care about this community and I want to see it thrive. And I guess was dumb enough to sign up to ask for 4 more years of it. Now, the town has in the past paid firefighters, an hourly fee while they were out on a call. And I was paid in that as well because it was considered reimbursement. Well, I've got stains on my pants tonight from a house fire from earlier today, from clothing, fuel, and that sort of thing. So, after I was hospitalized for 6 weeks with COVID, I have not been attending as many fires because I was left with some lung damage. And I told the town administrator probably, I don't know how long ago, that I would not accept that. I still go on medical calls and wrecks and things of that nature, but I try to stay away from smoke. So I haven't been accepting that either. And Harold questioned that the town was paying into my firefighter's pension, which is $60 a year. And that's been done. I'm trying to think, and let me go back and say that before I run for the board, I checked this out with the attorney, the city attorney, the OML attorney, with the State Firefighters Association, made sure everything was legal. Frank, I think I even checked it out with your firm, and it was all kosher. And to give
The $60 is the requirement, right, for volunteer?
It's isn't it 60
Yeah,
per
60
year?
a year that
So-
the towns are required to pay
Yes.
on behalf
So-
of each volunteer
Harold, if
fire.
I need to reimburse my $5 a month for my pension,
I don't have the problem with it. It's just like I told the person that called me and talked to me about it. I think you deserve everything you got. Because I think you started the fire department, you served 40 years on it.
Well, I didn't start.
I called you, I called Tiffany, and to ask them questions, because I have no idea about all that crap, and I could care less. I thought you deserved everything you did, but I didn't need to answer that question to people.
But I told you that day you asked me.
You told me you was
exactly
gonna call me back. I called you on the phone on Wednesday night, and you told me you'd call me back, and I hadn't heard from you
No,
since.
I told you at lunch one day, everything I've just said right here.
Yeah.
But,
Tiffany had to call me, I asked her to talk to the town attorney to get it clarified. Still hadn't had that phone call.
No, you didn't tell me to talk to the town attorney, you asked me to look it up.
And still haven't had that phone call.
Well, I don't work for the city anymore,
So, you know, I have no problem with it, so you clarified it, it's on there. Everybody ought to be good to go.
I mean, if I said I don't have anything to hide. I'm proud of my years of service on the
And I'm
fire
proud of your
department.
service you did too.
And I am proud of my years of service on the town board. And,
Don't you get $125 a month anyway, or you get?
Yes, sir.
No, no.
So it's the same as whenever I was on the town board.
Yes.
So you're not real smart, are you?
No, sir. Not at all.
$100,000 for this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As long as we understand.
Math was not a strong point.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Bert, that's not your pension also. You're giving up right now because you're still in the fire department. We can draw a pension at 20 years, and after the 20 years, then they start holding it back, then after 35 years?
After 30, I
30,
believe it's 30, maybe
We just
35.
lose out. So Bert's losing out, I'm losing out to stay on the fire department. So I think the town ought to pay you $60 a year. At the least.
Well, and let me give you a little history, and I'm sorry I'm dragging this out, but I feel like an accusation has been made, so to speak, and it needs to be made public. In the past, I'm trying to think here, in the past 30 years, James, you've served as town board member, mayor, firefighter. Jay States has done the same. Lanny Job did the same. Will Waldrop did the same. Tim Riddle did the same. Terry Birkenbaugh did the same.
Wow.
Who am I missing? I know I'm missing some. Tom Strake did the same. This isn't unique. It's not anything new. And I am here to try to help serve the community. And that's my goal. Otherwise, trust me, town board or fire department would be gone a long time ago.
So what's the problem? What is the problem? You shouldn't serve on the fire department and be on the town council, is that the issue?
Who talked to you?
You.
I mean, to me, I don't have a problem with none of it.
Well, why did you bring it up?
Huh?
Why did you
Because
even bring it up?
I was told that that's what it was, or, yeah. So, I asked him about it, you know, plain and simple. You know?
Okay. Well, we're dragging a long meeting out longer. Do you have anything you want to add to that agenda item? Okay. Item H is discussion with possible action to drop town administrator spending from $20,000 to $5,000.
I think we ought to take it back to the $5,000 limit. But I think also the way it's worded in the deal, you know, go back to the board, do the hiring and firing, and the town board ought to do the hiring and firing.
Well, that's two separate agenda items.
Yep.
Personally, I don't have a problem leaving the town administrator able to spend $20,000 because if a high service pump goes down at the plant, then we've got to have a special meeting to take care of that. We see what is being spent. But I'm not gonna argue that point one way or the other, so I'd just say somebody entertain a motion, let's see where it goes.
I better just go to aye.
Are you tabling that then, or withdrawing it? Okay, itemized, discussion with possible action to take away hiring and firing from town administrator.
Go to Jay, table that, too.
Okay, are you tabling or withdrawing?
I was wrong, whatever.
Okay. Because tabling it would show up on the next agenda. Discussion regarding update on fire station remodel. James, Brandon, you all sit here a long time to get to this point. Brandon's looking like he forgot why he was here.
Brandon? Don't hide back there. Okay, so over a year ago, we came to you asking permission to add on to the fire station. We showed you a rough plan. That plan has changed somewhat throughout the year. We went out for bids. We accepted the bids last week. It should have been in the Kingfisher paper. If you read Kingfisher paper, you know. So this is just a courtesy update that you will be seeing activity around the station. They'll probably be using that grass area back behind to bring in equipment. There's gonna be some concrete that's gonna be removed. Does the town have a place that they need concrete?
Put it down at the lagoons,
Do you need it, or would you like us to find a new home for it?
unless you got a place for it, you can bring it down there.
Do you, well, I'm saying, if you got a hole you need it in, we'll make sure it gets there.
Yeah, we will use it.
Okay. The bid came in about $250,000 more than we anticipated, but we had the money to do it. We think it's important to add on to the station for the future of this town, to be able to keep an ISO of 3. And it's just to entertain any questions that you guys might have. It'll all be county money. There won't be any city money. So as Frank said, sometimes people just hand you a present. And that's what we're doing. Because we think that is the future where we're going.
Is that going to affect the library building in any way?
Not at all.
How close is it? Gonna come to the driveway there?
Yes.
Okay,
The guardrail will probably come out.
okay.
And then it'll be on the east side and on the west side, wrapping around the building. And it's to accommodate the ladder truck that we're real close to needing
I know.
to keep an ISO of 3. So if construction keeps going around town, buildings keep going up, we're gonna be there. And so we're gonna also ask the town to start putting some money back, or at least consider it, for the purchase of that ladder truck. Because we're spending a lot of money to do the building.
E1 made the comment the other day, they're 3.5 years out on a truck if you wanted to purchase a truck of that size. So you're looking at every bit of 2 to 3 years for that to even be built.
And at the time, last year, we made the remark that we'll do the truck or the building. And you guys didn't want to do the building, so we can help on the truck, but not a whole lot right now. So but that is something in the future, whether that's 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know.
How much for the truck?
Oh, it's gonna be over $1 million.
$1.5 million probably. What do you think, James?
Yes. If everything's shut down and no more buildings go up, we may drag it out 10 years. But if things keep going, it's not just 2-story buildings, it's square footage of buildings for a ladder truck. That's what people don't understand. They think, we don't have that many 2- or 3-story buildings. No, it's the size of them.
Well, Jack told me earlier that a ladder truck would have been of huge help on that fire today, on that structure.
It would have.
Can't get
If
between
you
the
don't know,
buildings.
we had a major house fire, a 2-story large home, and outside the city limits, but still in our response area.
Okay. So it's just a courtesy to let you guys know that it's happening. I figured everybody already did know, but we didn't want any surprises when you start to see stuff happen down there. Any
James,
questions?
I'd like to commend you and Brandon. I have more or less stepped away from this building project and let them do it for two reasons. James, for those of you that don't know, was on the, is that called the Public Safety Board, Kingfisher County? Anyway, I call him the jailbird because he was on the board that built the jail and had got a lot of experience working with architects and engineers on that project. Brandon has actually got experience in commercial construction, and these two guys have done a wonderful job. And you won't hear me brag too often, so suck it up.
So I have a question.
Do what?
When's work going to start?
Probably in May. Of course, we couldn't let them start before April 1, that's our open house. So,
Oh, yeah, I see, that's right.
we told them we gotta get past April 1, and they said, we're not gonna be ready for you till May,
How long will it take?
a year.
They've got.
So when they say a year, maybe a year and a half, and there's no penalties. We didn't put the penalties in there because they said then there's rewards if you do that, if they meet ahead of time or finish ahead of the schedule. So we just let it go.
They put 365 on their bid,
Huh?
This is exciting for Hennessey.
so
It's big,
I'm
it's
guessing a
exciting.
year and a half.
So will that cause any major traffic congestion on that side road there on
Should
Fourth
not.
Street?
I can't promise that. I mean, when they're
I'm
bringing
just
something in,
asking.
it could, but everything will be parked back on the grass, equipment. We'll probably even have to drag a portable building in to put some of our stuff in.
That was my next
Do we have to
question.
get a permit for that? For a portable building?
Yeah, I know the code enforcement officer.
Okay. Richard?
How much money does the fire department have to put towards a fire truck?
To put toward a fire truck? Well, it won't be hardly any when we get done with this project.
$2.
We have, as of February 22nd, $1,952,543.18.
1.9 million?
Yes.
Yes.
And the construction is how much?
1.8.
1.8?
No, sir. It is close to 1.9,
Is it?
because you forgot about option A or
Oh,
option.
that's right.
Alternative one we went with was re-tin and the roof and everything, we put new tin on it.
So not only are we adding on, but we're basically refurbishing the whole new building.
The whole thing.
All the new tin.
The roofs are gonna match, all the tin's gonna be new at the same time. We got some holes rust through on the tin now. The bonus that we're getting is the ARPA money, am I saying it right?
Yeah.
The county is sharing that with the fire departments. And we was able to pull $392,000 of that ARPA money toward this building. So when we get done with the project, we're estimating we'll have about $371,000 left in county funds.
And how much is the cost of a new fire truck? I know you're getting a-
Depends on what size you get. A ladder truck is gonna be a million plus, $1.2 million.
That's for the short version.
Yeah, it's not like the big ones you see in New York City.
Yeah.
They won't have a steering wheel in the back.
We don't have any need for that.
No.
Just something basically with a monitor to get it up high or to get us up high to out over the middle of a bigger complex or up high. Why is that way?
So we feel that we'll still have some cash to replace the brush truck if one gives out in the next 3 or 4 years. That's why that ARPA money was so important to us. If we had not had the ARPA money, we would not be doing this project. So what comes first, is the ladder truck or the building? I think that obviously the building, you gotta have a place to put the ladder truck. So that's what we're building now for the future.
And board members, whether I'm on this board or whether I'm not, I would really recommend start putting some money away on a a long-term plan for that truck, because like James said, the county money's not gonna rebuild very fast. The voters, redistributed back when they built the jail and took a chunk of money that the fire departments were getting and put it toward the jail.
We've been saving that for several years, haven't you?
30 years.
I need to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we've had a plan that we very cautious with spending money. Even though you look in there and we have bought all the trucks with county funds except E1 and the Tahoe. And E2 was bought with county funds plus a grant from the town. So we have not come and begged for a lot. We probably got one of the lowest budgets of this town.
Oh, we do, yeah.
Not to mention in a couple of years too, we're probably gonna be looking at needing a different brush truck anyway.
A different what?
Brush truck.
That's why I said that part of that money will have to go toward the brush truck. Because the brush trucks are 06s, the two of them are. And that doesn't sound very old, but they get used hard. So I'm gonna keep your time if you don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Anybody? Thank you, James. Thank you. And Brandon.
And we got Randy over there.
Yes, it's Randy.
Yeah.
And Randy.
I'm just over here being quiet. That's right.
Okay, item K is executive session pursuant to 25 Oklahoma statutes, section 307B1, to discuss hiring a children's librarian. You all may be wondering why, when the town administrator can hire, we're doing this, is because the candidate is the wife of a city employee, and our employee handbook says that if husband and wife is involved, then the town board has to make the decision. So that's why we have that on for executive session. So I will move to convene into executive session.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Bert,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Harold,
Yeah.
David.
Yes.
Session.
Second.
Roll call.
Bert,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
You seconded that, Harold?
Yeah.
Okay. Item L is discussion with possible action to hire Ruby Rodriguez as the children's librarian.
I make the motion to hire Ruby Rodriguez as the new children's librarian.
Second.
Roll call?
Cliff,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have a new job.
Okay, though, they didn't take that far.
New business? Anything? Citizens' comments?
I do want to say something. I want to thank you guys so much for everything for the past 17 years. And I know I'm helping I'm helping these people in town hall because they mean the world to me. I hope you guys will show them the same gratitude, come in and check on them, anything they need, try to help them, because they really are struggling right now. And you've got to take care of your employees. You've got to. My other comment is, when you guys go to do a town administrator and a director of public works, speaking from experience, make sure that your director of public works reports to the city manager, town administrator. Because if they are equal positions, I know many people, when I went to OML events, when I told them that, they said, "Oh, you're crazy for working for that." Most people will not do that because they want to go spend $200,000 on something, or, you know, say 10,000, because 20,000 would be their limit. As a person who's in charge of the budget and all the financial, you can't say anything. Like, there's no chain. So to me, you guys have to, and Hennessey is a growing town. I mean, if we look where I was back in 2006 to now, this town has done a lot and is growing. And it's gonna continue to grow unless you guys put your hand on it and stop it. So that's all I gotta say.
I want to say, I think we're in a good position because with Tiffany did her job.
I agree, and, I appreciate your time, Tiffany. I told you that before, I can't say it enough. Appreciate your time and everything you've done. I feel like that we are experiencing, especially the employees are experiencing, what it's like to be without somebody with all of your talents and things that you were able to do, and I appreciate that very, very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to say hi, well, I'm probably speaking out of line, we're on citizen comments, I wanted to go to council report.
That's next, go ahead, and I'm sorry.
I just want to say how proud I am of the town, people getting together, and, you know, I really thank you, Tiffany, you did a really good job, but I still like everybody pulling together, everybody's helping David do this. Ronnie came over and helped us. I just really, really like how things are coming together and working as a team, and that's very, very important, because when you have a team, it's a lot better than because I cannot do it. Team can do it, and I just want to say again that it takes a team to do it. And thank you, David, for stepping up and doing what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing.
I don't know if he likes us as well tonight as he did a couple of weeks ago.
I'm blessed. Again, Tiffany took the time and crunched the girls in the office here. They're doing all the critical work, and I'm just sitting there looking pretty. But you know, there's a few things I have to do, but like I told them, they help me a lot, and I've got people I can call to help me. So yeah, they're a big help, man.
And don't let me leave out Katie either. Katie, thank you for your help too.
Her and Tiffany have
Shelley,
been,
You're welcome.
it's
her husband.
like I said, it takes everybody working on the same page to get things done. So really, really thank you.
Yeah, if you guys think Tiffany just came in and just did one thing, I wish you guys would have came and followed her and then come and follow me right now,
Oh no.
because you will see the difference. She did more than what I think any of you imagined. And I think that the town is really, we're gonna struggle in the office.
Richard, do you have anything? David?
No, sir.
Harold? I don't.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Roll call.
Cliff,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Harold, David,
Yes.
Cliff, Richard.
Okay,
Other side.
other side. Oh, hey, well, we're not done.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay, this will be the meeting of the Hennessey Utility Authority Board of Trustees, March 9th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Richard,
Here.
Cliff,
Here.
Bert,
Here.
Harold,
Here.
David.
Here.
Item A is minutes of the meeting. B is approval of claims as follows. February purchase orders, $21,365.36. March purchase orders, $59,884.27. No meter deposit refunds and treasurer's report. You got it?
I have make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Roll call, please.
Cliff,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay, under other scheduled business, discuss, accept, approve, deny, reject, and/or take action on the following. Item A is discussion with possible action to install water meters at the Mendoza Trailer Park south of town by the water plant. Alyssa, can you enlighten us on that, or David, either one of you?
They approached us again in town hall and asked if we could put water meters at the individual trailers at this trailer park instead of the one main one they have out by the road, and then they split up the water bill amongst themselves. The problem being there's at least 10 homes out there right now with room for 7 more, and they would be willing to put the $3,690, $1,500 down, $500 a month for 4 months to pay for the actual meters. The problem would be in adopting the lines from the road to the trailer houses, and because it's been dug up so many times and things added, they've done themselves to these lines, and we would probably have to just go back in and redig everything and put new lines in, and an extremely expensive endeavor.
You know what I think we should tell them? That if they want to hire a contractor and put in a new line to our specs and meters, then we'll adopt it. That's just my thoughts. And I'm not even sure, with it being outside city limits, if we can adopt that or not.
Yeah,
that would be a legal issue we'd have to check out.
The attorney and the board of,
I don't want to adopt, you guys chime in, I'm just one guy on here, but I don't want to adopt their lines.
She's got pictures that we've seen, we've been out there, they just go out there and they'll dig up the water line and put a hydrant in wherever they want, it's their land, and right now, that's fine. But what's gonna stop them from doing that if we take it over? Because if we put meters in, we're responsible to everything up to the meters. So they asked if we present it, so we did.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny installation of water meters at Mendoza Trailer Park.
Second.
Roll call?
Bert,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes. Bert, I have a question.
Okay.
Don't we supply water to non-residents?
Yeah, well, yes, if they're within our system, yes. And we supply water there,
Okay.
but
It's not illegal for us to supply water to this trailer park?
no.
Okay.
And right now, they have one master meter, and then they're collecting the bills from the tenants.
As I understand, anytime, I think in most cities, if there's a development put in, a brand new development, they're responsible for the sidewalks, streets, and
Correct.
water lines and all of that.
Right.
That's also out of city limits, right?
Yeah. 2 seconds there.
I did.
I thought so. Make sure. Okay. Okay, good luck reading these.
I have a good memory.
Okay. Item B is discussion with possible action to create an ordinance to make installing backflow preventers and all new and existing sewer lines in repair mandatory. Brian, I think you asked
Yeah.
for this.
We went to an OMAG class back in November of last year, in which OMAG is our insurance. They was talking about sewer backflows, is basically what the class was over. And, insurance has a cap of $25,000 on damages. Well, there's a lawyer in Oklahoma City has found a loophole to where he considers it a public nuisance or a burden upon everybody in the household. That cap's $125,000 per person in the household. And they have paid over $500,000 claims for sewer backups. I think if we would adopt that for an ordinance, to have them put it in on new builds, or if they replace existing service lines, have them put that backflow valve in there, it would be an extra insurance for us or the homeowner.
That would save a homeowner a lot of issues.
I wish Tim Riddle was here, because he would fill you in on that. And that was not our fault, that was his fault when he put the pool in, but
Wonder where that. What are your thoughts, guys?
Where'd it go at on the line?
you would probably put it in after the cleanup.
So it would be on the customer's line?
Yes,
and
it would be
done
on
at
the
their
customer's
expense?
service line.
And done at their expense?
Yep.
So how would you snake it to the sewer line?
You're gonna go through the cleanup, go towards the main, so it's like a check valve. It's installed right as you go through, that valve's gonna open in there.
But can you pull it back?
Sure.
Check valve, you can't.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Surely they have some sort of valve made for that purpose?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Have you got one, Brian?
I do not have one.
You and Kyle are gonna have to come over to my house and make me do that. I do not wanna dig up my old sewer line in my yard.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not
yes.
saying make it mandatory for existing, I'm saying new builds, or if something was to happen to your service
Oh,
line
okay.
and you had to replace it,
It's being
then,
repaired.
then make them put it in.
I'm breathing easier now.
Yeah.
That was a scary topic for me there for,
No, I'm saying new builds, or if
Okay.
you have to replace an existing line.
Thoughts on this? We could have our town attorney draw up an ordinance requiring this, if that's what you all
You know,
want to do.
we could table it, and I can have somebody from OMAG come and explain it better.
Well, I mean, I understand it,
Yeah.
and I agree, because we had a problem one time several years ago with that.
Yeah. And
A basement, but it was a finished livable basement.
Duncan and Calvita has got
Thank
that
you,
as an
Ron.
ordinance now.
Fire department got involved in that one because we were dumping water down the line with the tanker trying to clean out the line.
They placed it in their basement, and they did file a claim with us back when I was on the board, and we did pay it.
Brian, if you get OMAG to come in to talk to us, ask them if they could bring a sample valve. I'd like to see one of them things.
Yeah.
So y'all okay with tabling that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, will you make sure that gets on our next agenda, please?
Yes, sir.
And contact them so we can,
So not the special meeting, you want it in
Probably
April's,
the regular.
April's meeting?
Okay, discussion with possible action to approve quote from Greg Work Construction to refurbish RO Skid 2. David, you're on again.
No, Alyssa's here.
Okay, Alyssa's on.
You're on discussion, call it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the same,
Is it
yeah.
safe?
You already approved it.
Discussion with possible action to approve permit to construct for REAP grant KF 23-2.
That's where we can put in the water line on Dunlap.
I make a motion to approve the permit to construct for REAP grant MK F23-2.
Second, roll call?
Harold,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Cliff,
yes.
Richard,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion with possible action to approve quote from Grade Work Construction to refurbish RO Skid 2. Which one of you's?
I know, we talked about it a while back, once we got the new RO up and going, that we was gonna refurbish the old skid. And now that we got the new one up and going, I think it's time.
So it says they will sandblast, replace any rusted braces and bracket hangers, reinstall damaged strap, paint.
For $15,500.
At a total price of $15,500. I would, I think we need to do that to help maintain our equipment out there. I only have one request, and that would be, because it says in there with the town to furnish all materials, including the paint.
Yeah, he's gonna be supplying all the steel, we're just supplying the paint. We have the valves there at the water plant, which is just really 2 or 3 of them, of the small
I'd like
valves.
to recommend that we get with a paint supply company and find out what will hold up the best under those conditions. Because it's damp in there, and we have a paint expert on staff that might be able to help us, with that. So, but that's.
It's all pink.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to accept the quote from Great Works Construction to refurbish roll skid number 2.
Second.
Roll call.
Cliff,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Bert,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Okay, item E is discussion with possible action to approve quote from Rush Pumps to repair to replace high service pump.
So this quote didn't come in time for the meeting tonight.
So we don't have the quote.
Correct. Do you know when you're gonna be getting it?
He's gonna open the next couple of days.
So we could push it to the.
Do we know how much it's gonna be?
There's 2 or 3 different options we're looking at.
Okay.
Still, there's that one with just the impeller is $12,000. That's not the rest of the pump, so.
Now, enlighten me a little bit, because we repaired a pump out there a while back and put in a different type
Yeah.
impeller.
Yeah, that was the stainless steel one, which is still, I don't have the pictures, they're out in the car. It's still in perfect shape compared to the brass one, which I think you guys have seen the pictures of those,
Right.
how chewed up they get.
Because we opted to go with the higher price stainless steel
Yeah.
over the brass for the longevity, and you're saying that's working.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it has no wear at all.
So is that one of your options, your pricing?
Yeah.
Is that the $12,000 impeller?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's one of them.
Well, just let us know, and if we can get it in time to get it on that special meeting, we could do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, new business, citizens' comments, councilperson's reports. David?
Nothing.
Harold? Richard?
Nothing.
I'm good. Motion to adjourn? Oh, you got it?
Wait, I didn't hear that.
Whoever made it, I seconded it.
Harold, Bert,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.